serotonin. No wonder you aren't making hormones optimally. It's made out of cortisol or cholesterol. And also no wonder you're not making serotonin. So it's a pathway, right? And it's all connected. And I think that also takes away the blame and shame of, why am I feeling like all of a sudden I'm irritable and anxious? I don't feel like myself anymore. Um, that's very common too.
Oh, that is so common. And it's just like, why are you so moody, or why are you so irritable? And then that we talked about how that self-judgment is so limiting. And so to be able to recognize, anytime I understand what's going on in my body and my brain, it just is so comforting, and it is so reassuring, because then I am validated, and I do know, trusting my knowing that yes, there is a reason for that. So you talked about weight gain, and a lot of women are struggling with weight. And are there some factors that you would recommend besides, eat healthy and get your sleep and exercise? Is there anything else?
So I think those are some foundational things. But again, if we're just being told, eat less and exercise more, and there are hormone imbalances, that's not only bad for our psyches, but it's going to stress out our poor nervous system even more. And if we continue to work out harder and restrict more, our body's going to be like, oh my goodness, I better hold on to everything. In fact, I'm going to even create a little extra cushion. And you can cut down to 800 calories and feel like you're beating your head against a wall. So that's why, we really need to look at what's going on with all of the hormones: insulin, cortisol, sex hormones, thyroid, and also gut health. I can even tell, are you harvesting more calories from the same exact food that the next person is, just because of the different microbes in your gut? So
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Oh, I could geek out on it.
Me too. I love this thing as a dietitian. I just love alternative medicine, and I think functional medicine is the wave of the future. I think you're doing amazing things. If you could just tell us in a nutshell, what is it that you do differently?
So I think what I've been told is that I listen, and we are the experts of our own bodies at the end of the day. If a lot of times women have a hunch that some element is not right, and I think listening to them and validating them is the most important thing. And then from there, using both kind of symptoms and health, like their whole health history, but also lab data, and really pulling it together to an overall, like, personalized nutrition, supplement, lifestyle, lab work plan, because we are all uniquely biochemically individual. It's why it's so confusing. Um, there's so much information out there, right? We have information overwhelm, but then also the nutrition research, it's mostly done on men. And so that can be very confusing as well. I love Dr. Stacy Sims. She says, I think in her TED Talk, she says, women aren't just small men. Our hormones are complicated and it's hard to study. And so that's another layer too of why, we can get conflicting information, and why pretty much every diet works and every diet fails, for 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because most of the researchers are men, and most of the funding comes from men, and so we aren't equally represented in the medical world. And so to have someone like you, and to want to promote our health from the cellular level, and to empower us to have tools to take care of ourselves, so that we can be more effective in every aspect of life. Because as we talked about, we are leaders in life, as Dr. Natalie shared with us. And so, Sarah, thank you for what you are sharing at Vibrant Via, and in all your work with functional medicine and functional nutrition. So I appreciate you being on the show with us today. And I know all the women have just loved it. We've had so many comments, and people are just loving everything that you have shared. I know that we're going to want to hear more from you again at a future event.
Well, I am so grateful to be here, and just to reiterate, and just to basically help women to step into the higher calling, right? And to make that big impact on the world. We have to feel our best. If we're not thinking clearly, and we aren't feeling confident, and we're feeling lethargic, and all the things that tend to hit in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, how can we really step into that calling that God has on our lives and make the world a better place? So that's what my mission is. And if it's not me that helps you, find someone, keep asking, keep digging. That's what
Keep
I would
asking. Yes,
trust
keep
your gut.
asking.
Yeah,
Trust me, good. Yeah, absolutely. I loved it when you said in the comments that God is your CEO, and thank you for that. And
absolutely.
yeah, I wanted to let you all know that Sarah is going to publish her story in the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal. So look forward to that, because Sarah will be sharing her message in our Women's Journal. So that was awesome to hear from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for being with us. All right, our next guest is CJ Grace. CJ, so glad to have you with us.
Yes, and what an amazing lady to follow. I was trying to take notes on what Sarah was saying, because she came up with some real nuggets there. I wish I had a transcript of everything that's happened on this symposium so far, because as I was listening through, I thought, oh my God, I should have written that down. I'm not going to remember it, because then something else is said that's even better, and I've forgotten the earlier comment that I would have liked to have remembered and written down. So
that's exactly how
of this wonderful event, I want it.
Parisa Rose, unfortunately, she was not able to be with us today. She was going to be on our previous panel, but she is sick. But Parisa takes pages and pages and pages of notes, and she says, I will share my notes with you. And I'm always like, yes, I want them. So Parisa, we miss you. Parisa is our new chief relationship officer and chief our COO. So anyway, chief, whatever that stands for.
Yes. Some acronym. It must mean something.
Yeah. She works very closely with Mo Rock and the chief operational officer. Yeah, there we go. All right.
I'm the chief idiot, but let's not go there.
Okay, I have to tell you about CJ Grace. So CJ is a BBC journalist, and she has written 2 award-winning books. One of them is The Adulterer's Wife: How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. And she is also a breast cancer survivor. And she is two time. Yes. 2 times. Yes, thank you.
One wasn't enough for me. I had to be special.
Anyway, I had CJ as a guest on my comedy podcast that I host with Barbie Ray called Unstoppable AF. And she was telling us about the link between well, anyway, I'll let her tell the story. But
infidelity and breast cancer, which is the subject of my second book. But yes, and it goes both ways. There's a lot of links, because infidelity creates a hell of a lot of stress, and that creates illness. Stress is one of the main causes of illness, as we've been seeing from a lot of these wonderful functional medicine practitioners who've talked about how to relieve stress on your system. Well, infidelity, you might lose your home. You're going to most likely lose your relationship. Your whole life changes. You feel betrayed. And so that's a huge amount of stress. And that can create breast cancer. There's so many instances of that happening, and it happened to me. I got my second bout of breast cancer after I found out about my husband's infidelity. And the other way around, it happens too, because if women are not that well, men often bail. Sadly, men are not kind of natural caregivers. They're not the ones that bear children and have to deal with rearing children for God knows how many decades, probably till they leave the nest at the very least. And that is something that they're used to doing. So if a man is sick, the woman is much more likely to stay and take care of him than the other way around. I mean, there was a study in 2009 by Michael Glantz at the Barrow Institute in Phoenix, I believe, and it found a massive disparity in partner abandonment when you go by gender. Huge. Sometimes it was more than 12 times the likelihood of a partner being left if the sick partner was female rather than male. I mean, that's not to say there aren't some wonderful men out there who've been great at taking care of their ailing ladies, but that is not necessarily the norm, sadly.
Right. And I remember that when that study came out, being from Arizona, I was fascinated by the statistical connection there and the connection between infidelity and breast cancer and the massive stress upon the body. So tell us more about the research between the stress and what it is specifically about the infidelity that is connected to breast cancer.
Well, I think I mentioned some of that, but generally speaking, if your life is starting to crumble in one way or another, you are going to go into a deep, dark hole, at least temporarily. The hope is that you find ways of getting out of it, which is what I talk about. How do you get yourself out of that hole? But while you're in that hole, you are much more likely to feel physically as well as psychologically unwell, because the mind and body are so connected. That's what we've been hearing with a lot of these functional medicine folks that you've already had speaking. Mind and body are almost always talking to each other. And if your mind is not happy, your body is not going to be happy either.
Right. That's such a great way to put it. And so tell us about the link between cancer and bras, because this was
that's one of my main things. I'm known as the lady who flings pink bras up in the air so that telling me, and I can do that if you would like. I always have pink bras with me to throw around, because the link between bras and breast cancer is stronger than the link between smoking and lung cancer.
Well, okay, wait.
Think about that.
Yeah, let's repeat that one. The link
between smoking and lung cancer. We think that's the biggest thing that's going on. No, the link between bras and breast cancer is stronger than the link between smoking and lung cancer. And one of the prime researchers in this field, Sydney Ross Singer, wrote a book called Dressed to Kill, The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras. There was an earlier edition, and then a later edition. The later edition of that has a lot more studies in it, but he has done research of his own. He's also collated a lot of peer-reviewed studies from around the world that show an incredibly strong link between bras and cancer. Now, I will say that if you Google this issue, sadly, the only study that comes up is the 2014 Hutchinson study, which is the only one that shows no link. Why does it show no link? Well, it had no control group of women who don't wear bras. Now, that would be like studying the link between smoking and lung cancer without including any non-smokers to compare to the smokers. All they did was compare women who wear bras who didn't have cancer and women who wear bras who did have cancer. The other critical thing they did was it only looked at postmenopausal women, in whom the effects are much smaller because of something called survivor bias. What that means is anybody who might have died off or be suffering from cancer earlier on might already have died off before they would be able to be included in that study. So by only looking at older women, postmenopausal women, they got a much lower rate of breast cancer. So those were just two of the major things in that study that make it less robust than a lot of the other studies out there. So many studies from all different parts of the world show that link. And why does it happen? Because when you think about it, a bra constricts your breasts, and that stops the lymph from moving in your system. And it's the lymph system that moves out toxins and waste products and all of that. And where do toxins and waste products tend to collect in the body? In the fat tissue. And where do we women have a lot of fat tissue? In our breasts. So it is critical to not have those areas constricted. The other point is that you have a lot of lymph nodes there on your armpits and around there. And if you have a very tight bra that's constricting those lymph nodes, that is really bad for lymph flow. So my view is don't wear a bra at all. Now, some people might be more endowed than I am. And, you know, if you do sports, you don't necessarily want to be moving around more than the ball. So, you know, you might want to wear a sports bra during those occasions. But you want to wear a bra as little as possible, definitely not to sleep, and make sure that it is well fitting, not super tight. You don't want to be seeing welts on your shoulders. I remember seeing those welts on my mum's shoulders, actually.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing. And then what about your nipples showing? This is another problem. If you go to a business meeting, doesn't make you look very professional if you've got your nipples poking through the fabric. So what do? This is my solution. There is a solution. These things, you just wear those, and that makes you look professional. Or you choose clothing that is, either it's thicker fabric or it's patterned or something like that, that won't show your nipples. I will have to say there's another point of this is, why does it matter? Why do men show their nipples and women can't? What is about that? What's so bad about it? Most people have seen nipples. If you've been a baby and you've nursed with your mom, you've seen nipples. So why are nipples not allowed to be seen? But that's a whole different point. I don't know whether we want to go down that road today, but
well, this brings me to another point about CJ is I love her sense of humor. Oh my goodness. When she was throwing her bras on our show, she had one that got caught on the lamp that was hanging down and it just stayed there, while we continued our show. But this is one of the things that CJ implements in her life is humor to help her to have more resilience, because dealing with infidelity is massive, and then dealing with breast cancer twice. And so CJ, if you could tell us a little bit more about how you have developed such an amazing sense of humor, because as a researcher and a journalist, you don't often think about those two going together with somebody who's hysterically funny like you are.
Yeah, and when I was working with the BBC, we had to be much more, deadpan and not editorialize and not make fun of things unless it was specifically supposed to be humorous. So it's a whole new thing to now be able to bring out the humor. But I was brought up with humor. I remember my parents would let me stay up late for Monty Python when it came out in the 70s. God, I'm telling you how ancient I am. But when it came out in the 70s, it was on at 10:30 at night, and that was technically after my bedtime. But my parents would let us stay up and watch Monty Python, and I was just addicted to that show. I loved it, and that is my kind of humor. And I bring that into everything I do. And when I was going through breast cancer, if you don't see the absurd side of things, if you don't see the absurd humor, then you're just going to be down. If you don't laugh, you cry, basically. I think humor is the solution to getting over a lot of mental problems, a lot of physical problems, to just see the humor in it. And that's really what I would say. There's laughter yoga, for example, that's been very effective. It's a yoga practice. I don't know whether I'd want to do the forced yoga, the forced laughter, but I'd rather laugh at something because it's funny. But it does work apparently. And then I think it was Norman Cousins who had ankylosing spondylitis, and he was suffering excruciating pain. The doctor said there was nothing they could do, and he decided to watch comedy on the television. I think the Three Stooges was what floated his boat there. And he found that, just 2 hours of watching that would give him a whole night of pain-free sleep. And eventually he trained himself to not feel that pain anymore. So humor is critical. It's absolutely critical, because it's how you connect with people too. If somebody's in a bad mood and you just make a joke and you laugh and you smile, you've lifted the mood. You've got rid of the deep, dark negativity that you've walked into. So humor is vital to connect. It's vital to get through life, because life will throw you plenty of curveballs. And how do you deal with those? You have to have a kind of sense of absurd humor of the cosmic joke that the universe is playing on you.
Absolutely. And I remember when my husband and I, when we would get an argument and the tension would escalate, or other people, but at home, oftentimes when you're with the same person, that can happen. And I remember we were both just so frustrated, and his face looked so funny because his eyebrow, different people have funny faces when they get mad, and it does make me laugh. And so I just couldn't help myself. I said, do you want the 5-minute argument or the 10-minute argument? And oh my goodness, it sent me into gales of laughter. And then he couldn't help it but laugh. And that became a line that I would use as soon as I could remember it. But humor, it de-escalates the situation, and it is a bonding tool in addition to being the best medicine. Laughter really is the best medicine, and it does help our immune system to be strengthened. It helps the neuroscience within our body to be able to reduce our cortisol. And so it helps us to produce oxytocin as well, to bond us to people. So humor is very powerful. And CJ, you are amazing at that. CJ also hosts a TV show on the Thriving Women Network, and her show is called Uncomfortable Conversations, where she talks about the things that we don't like to talk about, as you can tell today. And so I encourage you all to go and watch her show and connect with her there. And CJ, it was really great to have you on today. Can't wait to have you come back and tell us more and enjoy more of your sense of humor.
Yes, and I do have the bras. I think maybe I could finish by throwing them in the air. Why not?
Absolutely. Save yourself from breast cancer.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Can I bring up one point that came up with Sarah Barthel? She talked about the psychological brush off that people often get from their doctors.
Oh, yes.
And one thing that is very common with is breast implant illness. Breast implant illness is very real. But there was a study done that was published in 2022 by some Dutch surgeons that were trying to claim that when people complain about breast implant illness, when women complain about it, it's just because they are neurotic. I'm serious. This was a real study. And yet, breast implant illness is very real. And there is a Facebook support group. I think it's called Breast Implant Illness and Healing by Nicole, because it's Nicole DeRuda, who is one of the pioneers in this field. Well, to date, that group has almost 200,000 members. Breast implant illness. It can create, the silicone implants can create systemic problems throughout the body that are hard to understand. And it's hard to understand that it is from breast implants. But even people like, say, Crystal Hefner, who was Hugh Hefner's widow, she is now a spokesperson for that because she had them for cosmetic reasons. She was feeling extremely unwell for quite some time before she realized it was the implants. And when she had them removed, she started to feel better. So that's just one other thing that I wanted to leave folks with, because in case you are somebody who's had breast implants and you are having some weird symptoms and you really don't feel good, maybe you should check out Nicole DeRuda's site. That's Breast Implant Illness and Healing by Nicole. She has a Facebook support group.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, because I have several friends that have had breast implant disease, and they, when they got them removed, they felt so much better. And I was fascinated how that affected their whole body and affected even their mental health as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
It affects everything.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with us, CJ. It was great to have you with us today. And thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the fun. And thank you for being such an excellent researcher and such a leader in resilience.
Thank you. It's been amazing. And I look forward to listening to everybody else today.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow. Okay. Was that just incredible? Hey, oh, this is so fun to have two more amazing women that are with us, Anna Demerchis and Rachel Weaver. They are two more of my mentors here at the Los Angeles Tribune, and they are both such angels, and I just love them so much. They have the most pure hearts, and they are so generous and so loving, and they are just so gorgeous. They both are models, and they are like the Bobbsey twins. When they get together, it is so cute to watch them get together. I'm like, can I be a triplet and come bob with you?
Yes, you can.
Yay. And they are amazing hosts. Anna is the co-host of the Maurice and Anna show. She is an entrepreneur in real estate and design. And Rachel is the CEO of her own PR company. And so, Rachel, could you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you show up as a leader?
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you today. So I have been a serial entrepreneur for many, many years. I don't want to tell how many. That'll age me quite a bit. But no, I do have a PR and IR company. So we do public relations and media relations, as well as investor relations as of recently. And we just really help entrepreneurs and businesses in general, it's more businesses, to be able to be seen and heard and funded. So
yes, we all want to be seen and heard and understood, but we also want to be funded. crucial point there. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how about you, Anna? Would you tell us more about you and how you show up as a leader? Oh, I think, are you muted? Not muted.
Here we go. Okay.
There we go. Okay, great.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. And I feel so incredibly blessed to be with the two of you today. I am just so honored to be on this panel with you, talking about the things that I'm doing. And I feel that every day we have to wake up. It's a new moment for us to arrive into our lives, to be the people that we were meant to be. So I try to lead with that in mind every moment that I wake up. And Rachel knows me extremely well. And we don't always have the greatest of moments, but we're there always pushing each other to the top, because that's what we have to do. We have to pull each other and push each other up in those moments of doubt or fear. And we have bonded over the past couple of years, and we're doing amazing things together, and we just absolutely love and adore each other. So we're going after our dreams together.
That is so awesome. You know,
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is so interesting is that many times as women leaders, it can be challenging to find another woman who supports us, who cheers for us, who wants our success. And I'm gonna ask you this question first, and then Rachel, because you two are so rare, the way that you do empower each other and the way that you empower other women. I'm so grateful for the ways that you empower me. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I would love to. And thank you so much for bringing that to the surface, because it is true. It is very rare to find women who support each other, who are not jealous of one another, who come together with equal hearts and equal spirit to move each other forward through their lives, especially when we've had difficult paths, but we've been able to discuss those paths, relate to those paths, and make a plan together to move forward to help each other realize our dreams together. And I think that's so important. And I love what you're doing here, Karen, too, with the Tribune, and having all these thought leaders on, these female leaders on, to inspire each other to wake up every day, to be better, to accomplish the things that they've dreamed about all their lives. And it's never too late. So I really, really, really respect what you're doing, and I feel so honored to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. It is rare. We do experience so much jealousy. And I'm going to just pass that off to you, Rachel, because both of you are, first of all, being so gorgeous and to be so successful. I would imagine that has been a real challenge to find another woman like Anna who does support you and who is not jealous of you.
Oh, yes, I hit the jackpot. No,
Equally
yes,
saying yes.
So, it really is a blessing. I am a big believer in God. And I think that at certain times in our life, God sends us little angels. And those people that are looking down on us, our angels above, are searching and helping us to find the angel that belongs here on earth with us. And so I'm so grateful to have found Anna, and to be able to do life with her on a daily basis, and part of what really has brought us together is we do have some similar paths, but also our hearts. We're both Aquarians. We both have similar things that have happened in our past, and we both have had big, audacious dreams that no one and nothing was going to stop. And so it really has been such a godsend to find her, but also people like you, Karen, who inspire each and every one of us. So many women here at the Los Angeles Tribune, the things that Ava has done, we're so grateful for. But really, Anna and I have come together. We are doing major things in the world, and we're so excited to be able to show up fulfilling some of our dreams, because like Anna is an incredible woman. We have a lot in common because we both have a lot of grit and tenacity, and we're willing to do side things that are kind of our job while we're pushing through to follow our dreams in film and TV, and making that positive impact and creating things that can continue to make other dreams come true for other people. And so it's been such a rewarding time over the last several years as we've linked arms and have done many different adventures, and they're just beginning. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I want to ask you about this grit and tenacity, because both of you do. Could you tell us about an obstacle in a story, an obstacle that you have overcome in your life that has helped you to have the grit and tenacity?
Oh boy, which one? No, there really there's been several. And even while knowing Anna, I'll just bring one massive challenge that I've had to overcome. I was in business when I met Anna with someone that really didn't align with my principles and beliefs in how I want to show up in the world. And unfortunately, it created a lot of hardship. It created a lot of financial, there was financial betrayal in that business relationship. And it was very, very difficult and heartbreaking. And I think, when something like that happens, it absolutely puts that distrust in others and also in ourselves. So stepping through to learn to trust again, I'm so grateful because I've learned so much about myself through the process, about the way that I want to show up in the world. And that really my heart and my empathy wasn't to blame, but it is to learn from, to pay attention to certain things when we do make ultimately business decisions and even relational decisions in our life. And so that was one challenge. It was really hard to overcome. And I'm so grateful because Anna walked beside me through the whole process. It's taken a couple of years to overcome, but here we are.
Wow, to have somebody to walk beside you and to be with you and someone who supports you. That is very painful when we experience those losses that cause us to distrust and cause us to have that feeling of feeling so unsupported. And so what a beautiful thing. And you have such a depth of empathy. And I'm sure that if we dug deeper, we would learn even more. And so thank you for sharing that vulnerable story with us.
Oh, thank you.
And Anna, the same question for you. I want to know how you have developed so much grit and tenacity. What is something you've overcome?
Well, my parents, I'm from New York, right? So we're pretty tough at the core. I've grown up with a tough skin. I've faced a lot of adversity in my life, a lot of challenges to this moment, right? But I'm learning now about myself more than ever before. And Rachel and I have daily discussions. Let me just first say, I'm going to backtrack 1 minute. Sometimes you meet people in life, and the moment you meet them, you're in love with them, whether it's a person who's a girl or a guy or whatever. It's like you're in love the minute you meet because you're connecting on a soul level. And when I saw Rachel, I was like, I'm in love. That's it. We're going to be friends. And she doesn't know it yet, but I just found my new best friend. And we actually didn't really even connect at that moment. We connected later on through IFA. But we both felt the same thing when we saw each other, that we knew each other our whole lives. And then when we did get together, we were inseparable since that moment, right? So I'm so grateful to have somebody that understands me. I don't have to apologize for things that I say sometimes that may not be correct because we know our hearts, right? And when I'm not able to talk because of maybe something I'm going through, she understands, and vice versa. And we kind of read each other's minds. So we already know that. What the other one is thinking. So it's really helpful in the friendship. And I pray that everybody finds a friend like this. Everybody in life has at least one really solid person that they can connect with and help through and walk through life with. Especially at this point, we're both divorced, we're both mothers, we're both trying to do our best to accomplish what we've always dreamed about. So back to the grit. The grit has added character to my life, who I am as a human being. And I'm not ashamed of it. I've done things in my life that I'm not so proud of, in moments that were very dark and difficult. And I think we can all say that if we're honest with ourselves, right? The other night, somebody asked me, tell me your story. Sometimes I don't even want to go back and tell the story because I feel so removed from it at that point that I don't want that past to define me. So I almost don't want to bring energy backwards. I want to move the energy forward, if that makes any sense at all. And I look back sometimes and I'm like, I don't even know who that person was back then, because who I was with in those moments was making me react in a way that my heart didn't want to react to. And thank God he removed those people. God removed those people from my life so that I could have people like you in my life now, right? So new people come in as the old people leave, and you learn those lessons, and you just take those lessons and say, okay, God, thank you. Thank you for showing me that. And I know that I'm stronger and better because of it. So I think that gaining all of that experience is a way for us to overcome our difficult past, and now we could move forward with a positive mindset, a different outlook on life, and then we start to attract the right people. I mean, I'm sitting here with the two of you beauties right now, so thank you.
Well, you said something that I thought was very powerful. And so many times when we experience these losses in our life, a loved one, for whatever reason, they are not in our life anymore, by choice or by illness or death or whatever, that this loss can be so painful. And yet very painful, very painful. And just like, CJ was just talking about, it is such a stress on us physically and emotionally.
Yes.
And yet to be able to realize that made room for you to have a space for Rachel to be in your life.
Absolutely. Look, I lost both my parents. Both of my parents are gone, right? I went through a horrible divorce. I lost my stepfather as well. So I experienced the loss of 3 parents who I had to pull the plug on, basically. I don't know any other way to put it right now in this emotional moment, but we had to pull them off of life support. And that is a life-changing moment. When you pull a parent off of life support, life is never the same. And I don't care how old I was, I still feel like an orphan every time I lost one of them, because no matter how old we are, we still need our parents. Now I speak to them in a spiritual level and I feel them in a spiritual way, but having them in the physical is so difficult, right? But I now have learned that every moment is special, and I try to connect with my son every moment that I can, on a spiritual level, on a mental level, on a heart connectivity, because it's so important for me to be the best person I can be to show him how good life really is.
Yes, and your gratitude, that is so beautiful.
Absolutely.
So beautiful. And
thank you.
And to we feel like orphans at times. Even if our parents are living, we sometimes feel like orphans. and for you to realize that you are never an orphan, because you always have God with you.
Absolutely.
And Rachel, I would like to hear your thoughts as we are talking about this as well.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes, I couldn't agree more with everything you both just said. But I think really and truly, a lot of times when we experience deep pain from loss of people, we can easily start to live in that pain. And I think it's really, we talk about neuroscience, we talk about mindset. The reality of it is it's not easy, but making those steps forward to step out of that so you don't remain in that victimhood is really so critical. And I truly believe that what has pulled me out of that time and time again is practicing gratitude. And, when we discuss these painful situations, when we shift our mindset, make small little shifts, it's easy to flip back, but that's why we need a friend that can say, I'm not letting you go there today. Get up. Regardless if you want to or not, you're getting up. And the reality of it is practicing gratitude and having those people in our lives that love us regardless can really help push the needle for us in big, huge ways. And so it is so critical and important, I think, to surround yourself with people that are loving and going to be there to support you, and really shifting your focus, because no matter what, if we wake up breathing, we have something to be grateful for. And so that has gotten me through time and time again when hardship has struck. Like we said before, we've all experienced tremendous loss that has hurt so deeply. And sometimes it takes us, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years to get over. But at the end of the day, leaning in on what we have to be grateful for and shifting our focus and our perspective from that moment can really help us. Like Anna said, we cannot continue to live in our past. Yes, it's okay to share our story to help other people, but share from a healed space, share from a space that's going to inspire, encourage others to practice gratitude, to take those steps to heal so that they don't stay stuck. Otherwise, no, we're not going backwards anymore.
That's right. I mean, we can't move forward if we're always looking in the rearview mirror. So that is really true. Well, you ladies are so empowering, and you're such great examples of being true friends and being angels in each other's lives, angels in my life, for giving hope to women that we can find a friend who will support us, who will want the best for us, and who will celebrate us. Thank you for all that you do personally to celebrate other women, because I am blessed because of your abundant thinking, because of your higher consciousness, and because of your generous hearts.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
feel the same about you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your friendship. And I am grateful to have you on today. Well, that was just really fun. Oh my goodness.
Yay, Karen.
Hey, how are you?
So having so much fun listening to your magical interviews. And I feel like I'm joining the crowd because 2 Aquarians and I'm an Aquarian. So we lined up quite well.
Yes, that's perfect. Wow. Well, so Elizabeth Angel she's an angel too. Oh my goodness. And I am so grateful that I got to meet her thanks to Ashkan Tabibnia at the grand reveal for Mindatorium. And when I walked past her and I saw her, she just had the most magnetic warmth that just radiated out of her. And she was with Marcus Bell, and he did too. And I looked past him, and I was talking to someone, and I said, excuse me, I'll be right back. I had to stop and go right over and find out about them. And she has such a depth of empathy that I just love. And she is helping to heal the world. And so if you could tell us more about the work that you're involved in with NATO and the things that you are doing in your life to help heal the world, I would love to have you share that with our audience today.
Thank you so much, Karen. You're so magical. I could say all the same things about you. You exude so much. You really are the queen of empathy, exuding so much warmth and kindness. And thank you for putting this amazing show together, bringing all these wonderful women. I feel like I want to meet them all and make them my girlfriends. So.
Me too. And I'm so grateful that you've stayed connected with me. That was last year, and that we've stayed connected all this time.
Yeah. Well, really, I think like people before me were saying, the journey really starts with us. I remember early on, like many of us, I've been doing thousands of hours of self-development to be the best version of myself and find out what I'm meant to do, what my path is for this lifetime. And I remember early on in that journey, somewhere in my 20s, somebody told me, when you're really living your highest, best truth, you could walk by someone on the street and their life would be changed just from being in your presence. And I think that sets the bar really high, that, there's so many things we can say, we can do, and we do these wonderful things in the world, but really just being, and that powerful feminine energy of blessing people through our presence and existence is really, what I strive for and, what drives me. We're doing a lot of exciting things. I think you'll be interviewing my co-founder, Dr. Olivia Lesler, sometime on the show. Really, what I started to reflect on, like my background is humanitarian work. So I grew up doing that from a young age, 15, helped open a care home for children with AIDS who couldn't find their way in an orphanage, opened a school for street kids with friends at 17, earthquake relief, 18 in the Middle East with refugees. So I think that makes a big impression, on you as you're going through your life. And what I realized earlier on is I can raise millions of dollars, and that's great, but it's never really going to change the world. And like Einstein said, it's our consciousness, a shift in our thinking that changes things. And so I really started thinking, who would I need to work with or impact? Whose consciousness would I need to influence in order to really make big change in the world? And today we work with some of the biggest Fortune 500s. We're NATO registered, some of the government agencies around the world. And what we've decided to focus on is health and well-being, because when people are healthy, it's so much easier to be kind and to be considerate and empathetic. And, people who are jealous, it's really because they're insecure, and they could be insecure because they have an emotional or mental health issue or, something like that. So we decided to put our whole focus on that, health and well-being, and just make it easy for people.
Right, right. Oh, it makes such a difference when we're physically healthy, when we're mentally healthy, we show up differently, and that energy that we exude is so different. And I know that you have you just were interviewed on a podcast, and I was watching it, where you were talking about your mental health journey and being heard, and how challenging it is with the diagnosis, where we're just doing questionnaires, but are we really listening? And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about your journey.
For sure. Right now, all of mental health is diagnosed on questionnaires based on how we feel. And how we feel is very subjective based on what we know and believe to be true, right? And they have these questionnaires for ADHD, depression, anxiety, but no one ever really checks what's happening in our brains. And, and we're not just a brain, we're a body, we're emotions. I love in Australia, the First Nations people, they call it social and emotional health. And it's really, all of those things, mental, social. There's not mental and the rest. We're all of these things together, complex systems. And so on my journey, I went through the physical and mental health care systems after being healthy my entire life, and getting bullied very badly, actually, by a woman, and ending up nearly dead. And that really fractured my belief, about sisterhood and all of that. And so what I've done is now created communities of women, and our whole motto, if you will, is lifting women up. There's these kind of quotes that surround yourself with women that when you're in a room, room of investors, they would shout out your name, those kind of women. And I love that it's even beyond just not being jealous or petty. It's to the extent that I know that these women, women like you, it's like, if we're not honoring ourselves or showing up as we should, or if we're talking negatively, I know the women around me would challenge me and be like, hey, how are you responsible for that? And taking responsibility. So I think this wellness, healing, what we're really putting together, it's bringing all of that together: connection, community, mental health, physical, emotional, spiritual, and just making it fun. There's a lot of gloom and doom, so just simplifying the whole thing. And that's what I've created with my team. And it's available for everyone. So
and that's such a powerful story. And be able to have the assurance that your name is safe with that woman, that if you're not there, that you can trust that she is going to be edifying you, that she's going to have your back. And I know that you're that kind of a woman that I felt that honestly from the first moment that I saw you, and I immediately felt that I could trust you. And this is powerful because, you lecture across the world, and I know, in Finland, and Dr. Rebecca Granger Ellis was telling me how she works with you. And so I wonder if you could tell us, what are some of the things that you're implementing in Women in Defense across the world?
Yeah, so that's a good starting point. It's like, women don't run the world, but we could. We have girls run the world. No, we don't, but we could. And you look at any industry, be it investments, health tech, government, there's just the numbers and statistics show that there just aren't enough women. And defense is one area where we funnel, billions and billions of dollars in America, in countries around the world. And really, if more women would have a seat at the table and would be involved in the decision making, I think we would treat countries like how we treat our families and really look out for the children of these countries as if they're our own. You know, we can go into every single war that's going on right now. You know, look at Gaza. It's like 70% of the people dying are women and children. And I really wonder, like, are there women in those places? And the answer is no. And one of the reasons there aren't a lot of women in decision making is because I guess sometimes we're afraid, you know, the quotes that a man has to be 20% sure of something to tell it as a fact, and then a woman needs to be 80% sure of it. And so I really started Women in Defense and Space Alliance as a way to just support those women, find them in their hidden corners doing their thing, and just really lift them up. You know, we created a prize of $1 million that we're giving away, but instead of giving it away in cash, we're giving it away in mentorship, in support, in health tech. We recently gave away, this is like you put it around your neck and you just wear it while you work, and it stimulates your vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is very central to your, you know, how calm you are, the decisions that you make and all of that. So just different ways to really lift women up. I can't say that enough, you know, just lifting.
That's amazing to have this tool that could stimulate your vagus nerve, because we can't go around yawning in these board meetings. You know, we're trying to approach our venture capitalist funding partner and we're yawning. And yet we need to have ways. And you know, I think about humming and how singing can massage the vagus nerve, you know, and the loud exhale and these different tools that we can use. But sometimes when we're escalated as a leader and we're in this, you know, very professional setting, we can't always do that. So that's a very ingenious innovation that you have come up with.
Well, it's actually a startup. So one of the missions that we have is we go around the world through thousands of events, millions of technologies, and we try to save people's time because there's so much marketing. You know, in America, it happens a lot. There's like 20% science and 80% marketing, and then those things are sold. So it's really hard to know who can you trust in the health space and the supplement space and all of that. So we've tried to curate the trusted ones with a, you know, round table, if you will, of doctors and scientists who don't get paid for doing this. So it's really about integrity and science. And so we've curated a list of like the best health tech, the best solutions, the best things that you can do to simplify your wellness and health journey. So yeah, you can access that actually on givememyhealth.com. So it's so easy to access. Yeah, and it's free. So the basic version is free. You don't need to pay for it. And I think that makes it so easy for people to tap into it.
Wow, that's fabulous. So tell us, how did you become so interested at such a young age in humanitarian work? Was that something that you saw role modeled, you know, in your family, or was it because you didn't? Sometimes we learn from non-examples. What was it that caused you to be so caring and so empathetic?
Yeah, well, I come from a long line of humanitarians. So my great-grandmother was from the UK. She traveled the world to India back in the day, you know, when there weren't women in leadership roles, and she adopted babies who were left to drown by the riverbed. And one of those babies was my grandmother, who was blessed. She was good friends with Mother Teresa and named Teresa. My mom was named Teresa, actually, after Mother Teresa. I'm blessed by her as a baby. So really, you know, my dad is still doing humanitarian work, and my stepmom from Finland. So yeah, just really following in their footsteps. It's not because, you know, I'm a good human being or something. I think that we just have a duty to be of service however we can, whether that's to ourselves, our families, the people around us, and then, of course, extending that joy out into the world in as many ways as we possibly can.
We talked a little bit with Dr. Rebecca Granger Ellis about being HSPs. And are you an HSP?
What does that mean?
A highly sensitive person?
Oh,
there's actually like a scientific test that they do, because you seem like someone that feels things very deeply.
And I do. And I think it's a bit like a radio station. Like there's stuff broadcasting all the time. And what I've learned to do and continue to learn to do is really just curating and choosing, you know, what am I going to focus on? Obviously, because what we focus on, we get. And so really surrounding myself with people who I don't need to guard or, you know, be worried about what kind of energy is coming in there. So yeah, just focusing on the good stuff.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. One of the things that just gives me so much comfort is when I don't have to guard myself, and I can just be totally safe and not have to figure out the agenda that's going on with the other person. It's so exhausting. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that is so beautiful about your heart and your soul is you are just so authentic and so caring and making a difference in women's lives to know that they are held in that safe space, because that makes such a powerful difference in our mental, emotional, and physical health.
Yes, we have a wonderful women's community. Everyone is welcome there if you want to have, you know, the support of women who inspire you, who are doing incredible things around the world. Bioharmonize.org. You know, we collaborate with women and try to support them in as many ways as we can. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Bioharmonize.org. That's wonderful. If you were going to tell us a tip that you would give us about how to navigate this oftentimes a male-dominated world as a woman leader, because you have, what are some of the things that you have learned that have helped you?
I think just keeping the focus on myself, because I think life is never going to be fair. There's always going to be people out there who are mean, and, you know, just stay busy building something incredible in the world and show, don't tell. And one day the scales will be evened and you will have your chance to, you know, make your mark and make all things well. So yeah, love always wins, truth always wins. So keep moving in that direction.
Yes. Show, don't tell. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I mean, let your talking, you know, do your talking on the court. So yeah, that's amazing. And you know, when you've had this past experience where you were attacked by a woman that affected your physical health so deeply, I'm sure that you see that, you discern that, and you are the kind of woman who does support other women. And that's probably one of the things that has motivated you to do that. Would you say that was the case?
For sure. I couldn't find, you know, I didn't know why people didn't like me. Like, why doesn't this woman like me? I never really thought that it was because she was insecure or that these women are insecure. Some of them were even older people I would think of as like mothers, and they were mean and you know, lying and jealous and all of that. I think I couldn't find what I was looking for, and so I created it. You know, it's often like that in the world. If you don't find a place where you belong, make one. And I really, in my community, you know, our community, we have a zero bullying policy, and we mean it. Like, you know, if you go behind someone's back or you do something that's not cool, we'll tell you that, hey, that wasn't cool, and then you're out. You know, so we really uphold that environment that we've promised, and yeah, it's a thing. You know.
Yeah, and that to have that, you know, with you and Dr. Olivia Lesser, you are role modeling that supportiveness between each other in business and in your friendship. And that's a very powerful thing, because women can empower women in such a unique way. And because we often don't experience this, you know, the mean girl syndrome. I mean, we all experience it at some time during our life. And then it's not the mean girl, then it's the mean woman, you know? And so to now have this empathy that has come from your experience to empower other women, it's such a grand mission, and it's just amazing what you are doing. And I just wanted to thank you so much for your beautiful heart.
Thank you. We attract what we are. So you're attracting us, and we're attracting all these amazing women.
And I want to say how much I appreciate what you're doing with Raven Light, with Marcus, and, you know, Bell Ringer, and all of the things that you are doing to help in that way too, because all of your amazing, you know, innovation that you are using to help people with their mental health is just very powerful. Do you want to talk real quick about Raven Light?
Sure. So we did a project bringing science and music together, so neuroscience and music. And as people listen to this AI avatar pop star we created, the more people listen, the better they feel. And it's been remixed by a DJ in the UK. And now our song is being played in the nightclubs and on the radio, actually helping people to feel calm and happier. So that's just one example of what happens when great people with good energy come together. It's the magic.
That is magic. And, you know, so many times we listen to our favorite song. I have a little playlist, you know, it's like, you know, the things that help me feel happier when I listen to them. But yours has neuroscience built into the song. It's not just the song that has the nice lyrics or the nice, you know, melody or whatever, but it actually has neuroscience built into it. And so I encourage all of you to look up Raven Light. And if you want to tell us how to find Raven Light,
I think the easiest way is you go to agorainnovation.com. Agora is the olden day word for marketplace. So that's where we bring everything together. And over there, you can see Give Me My Health, Women in Defense, Raven Light, all our projects are there. So agorainnovation.com.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Elizabeth Angel, it is wonderful to have you on with us today. I really would love to just pick your brain longer because I love everything that you're doing. I love your personal stories. Thank you for being vulnerable with us. And thank you for sharing from your life experiences and giving us hope that we can find a friend, that we can find a woman and bioharmonize if nowhere else, but that you are that kind of a friend to women, that we can trust you because we know that you would have our best interest at heart. Thank you for role modeling that in your life.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Look forward to being with you again sometime.
Yes, see you soon.
Bye-bye. Oh my goodness. Does your heart just feel so tender hearing these amazing stories? Wow, it is. It's just like magic. So I am going to just bring up our co-host. Debbie Prediger is co-hosting with me, and she is a founding member of the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal. She is in charge of the Empowering Women Network, and she has so many things that she is doing. Debbie is a connector, and I tell her that she's like electricity because she likes to connect people together. And she also empowers women and helps them to have confidence, helps them to overcome so that they can lead in this world. And so I'm very grateful for Debbie because she also has a beautiful, abundant mindset where she helps women to be able to share. And she's the kind of woman that shares, like many times I'm like, Debbie, I don't know how to do this. And she's like, oh, here, she'll give me a tool, or she'll say, send me what you need. And she's very empowering that way, but also very generous to be willing to help me out. So thank you, Debbie.
My pleasure. It is my honor to be able to introduce the next guest. Like, this is such a privilege because I have had the privilege of mentoring her, but I also truly adore who she is. Watching her grow into her leadership has been so inspiring, and it's just so bold and purposeful. So Ashley Borromeo is a movement and mindset coach. She's an entrepreneur, she's a mentor, and she's dedicated to women unlocking that confidence, that joy, that alignment. And she does it through dance and leadership together. So that's really cool. With over 20 years of experience as a professional dance instructor and a studio owner and a business owner, she has built a thriving community that empowers individuals. And she does it with the movement tool. So through her signature coaching programs and master classes, Ashley guides women to break free of doubt, step into their power, and dance through life with purpose. She is passionate about creating spaces where women are seen and heard and supported in their leadership journey. And Ashley, I am so proud of you. And I'm going to start with this first question. Before we get all into the how do you do all those things, I really want to start with the why. Why, Ashley, have you been called to do this work and to help women reconnect with themselves through movement, mindset, and leadership?
Thank you. Debbie, thank you for the beautiful introduction. Karen Hall, you're running a marathon here and you're doing it with such grace and beauty and energy, and I'm deeply inspired. Why is pretty simple. It's because I was realizing that there were people in my own personal life that as we get older, we don't move as much, and we need something to get us up. And it is really, what is your why is what I'm going with here, but it is finding joy. And so dance brings me joy. And I know that when people find joy in their life, it will allow them to do more of it, right? We don't need more work. We don't need to work out. We don't need more fitness. We need more fun. And so I realized, I've been dancing for a long time, and I'm grateful for all that it has made me aware of in my life and helped shape me into for character and all of the things that it's connected me to people. But really, it's about fun. At the end of the day, I will move my body if it's fun. And so why? I want more people to move their body. So many of our speakers on this symposium today have talked about the connection between mind, body, right? The health, the well-being. It's that. It's what they've all said. And I could say all the names, but it's everybody. Everybody has said the same thing about we have to be the best version of us and lead us. So thank you, Debbie, for that question. And I want people to have fun. I want, like Kimberly, follow the fun, follow the joy. Yes, that.
Exactly. We need more fun in our life. Oh my goodness. And that's one of the things about Ashley is you are so bright and you are just so full of energy. And when you speak, you have this captivating way that just draws people in. And so I appreciate so much what you exemplify in your own life. And so I want to talk a little bit about turning challenges into opportunities, because I know that many times when we have gone through challenges in our own personal life, we learn skills that we can use as leaders and turn that into that opportunity. Could you tell us about some things that have happened in your life that have been challenges?
Yeah, man, I just had like 5 different things pop in my head. I'm going to go with one that felt like a challenge in the moment. It felt like this scary dance, but it was not a challenge that was defeating. It was a challenge that was bringing more possibility and opportunity, but it took me a little bit to recalibrate that, to go through that dance. And I think we all have those things. I forget who it was earlier today was talking about, we dropped the glass and we're like, oh my gosh, we don't have a complete set anymore. I don't remember who that was. Gosh, there were so many notes I have. And then it was also, or, right. We meet somebody and we fall in love and we marry them and they change our lives. And so this challenge for me that's coming to mind is I bought my first business. I took over a studio that I was being mentored to take over. When I was 18 years old, I purchased it. I went through the whole official business acquisition of that. And I realized I was very young and I was grateful and it was so amazing. And there was challenges in that process, first of all, but I knew I wanted to still dance. And in the dance world, you only have that same body and strength and ability to be at your prime for a certain amount of years. And so I knew that if I didn't lean into that I would regret it, not just for me, but for me as a leader. And that's what we're here talking about today is I wouldn't be able to lead the other dancers that I would be in contact with over the years if I didn't step into all of me. So for a couple of years, about 2 years, year and a half, I actually owned my studio in Florida and I commuted to New York City as often as I could, sometimes every 2 months, sometimes every 3-4 months. And I had staff, I had a team that I was managing back home and all of our 350 students and all the parents. And I realized
at 18, let's just emphasize that at 18, unbelievable, managing a dance studio, 350 students, commuting back and forth to New York City. Wow, Ashley, let's just hats off to you at 18, and what a natural leader you are. Just have to say that one more time so it didn't escape everybody out there in the world.
Karen. Thank you. But I have to say in that I had an amazing mentor that taught me so much. And I had so many incredible women, which at the time I didn't realize this, kind of like Elizabeth was just saying, I didn't realize I had so many women, the sisterhood that was supporting me, but I had so many moms that were mothering me. They were moms of my students, but they were mothering me. They were like, go do it. You're inspiring our kids. You're leading by example. You're doing all the things. And that's a core value of mine. It probably came from this season of life, actually, now that we're saying it. But so I went back and forth for a bit and it was a really big challenge. It was a really big challenge. I didn't want to let people down back home. And I knew that if I didn't keep going, I would let me down as of now, as in that moment, and my future self and my students that were watching, my future. I just knew there was this big, so I had to kind of go all in one way. So I came back and said, I'm not going to do the New York thing. And I said, no, after I did that, I didn't tell anybody else that. I kept that to myself. And I was like, I'll just stay here. And then after a while, I was like, no, I can't. I have to go all in there. But that was really a challenging season of my life. It was really, really hard. And in the dance world, if anybody has ever been in part of the dance world or any sort of space where you kind of grow up together and you move through a sport or an activity where it's the same group of people a lot, you become family. And I felt like I was like, am I going to be letting people down or am I going to be leading? I wasn't sure. It was a hard dance.
Right. And in the dance world, there's so much judgment, that you're dealing with. Like Sandy was talking about, Sandy Scarlatta, being a professional figure skater, and so much judgment. Can you tell us about how you dealt with the judgment in the dance world?
Oh, sure. One example comes to mind, Karen. I interned before this phase of life at 17. I interned in New York City at an incredible dance studio there called Broadway Dance Center. And I interned for about 2.5 months. And at one point I went to go take a dance class at a different studio. And I was asked to please leave. And it wasn't just any dance class. I'm a tap dancer. Like, that's what I teach online right now. I've done jazz, I've done ballet, I've done all the things in the dance world. You have to kind of train them all. But I would never in my life say I'm a ballet dancer because one, I can't remember half the terminology half the time. And I pronounce it with a Southern accent sometimes. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I was in a ballet class and I was asked to leave. And I was asked to leave because my thighs were too big. And I remember the girl behind me, her name was Danielle, and she was also asked to leave. And she was a very, beautiful jazz dancer, also a gymnast, had grown up with cheerleading. So you talk about thighs. They were straight muscle. It was like Simone Biles' thighs. I was like, this girl's gorgeous. You're just jealous. That's what I was thinking in my head. And in the moment, that was the first time I think I really felt rejection directly at me, Karen. Other than that, I have to say I've been very grateful my whole life that I've had incredible people supporting me, my family, friends, dance teachers, moms, other moms of other students. And it was that moment where somebody in big New York City, you're chasing your dreams, and this ballet mistress comes over and with her very thick Russian accent and is like, "You out." And I was like, I'm paid, like I show her my card. I'm like, I'm here, I registered. And she was like, "Thighs too big, out." And that's a terrible Russian accent, but you get the point. And that was the first time I really felt that. And what I felt was confusion at first, because I hadn't been used to it. And in that confusion, I started to feel like, oh my gosh, like I embarrassed myself. Like all I did was follow directions, but I embarrassed myself by just coming in and being what I thought was like everybody else. But I guess I'm not like everybody else. And it took me a second. But Karen, it really didn't last long. One of my strengths that I know that I have is I am resilient, and I'm proud of that. And I think what happened was the leader in me, Danielle, was behind me, and she didn't take it so easily. And so I knew immediately that when I looked at her, I was like, "You want to stay?" And we actually didn't leave the room. I said, "Let's stay." So we just took ourselves off the dance floor and went back to where the dance bags were. And we did the entire class. I said, "We're not leaving, Danielle, let's stay." So I said, we registered, so we went to the back and we used it wasn't a cubby. It was a built-in shelf, but we used that for our bar, and we stayed, and I was proud of us. And so I felt the rejection, but really quickly, I also saw it in somebody else. And in that moment, that's what I love so much about what I do is you can fight for yourself, but we all want to fight for other people so much more, I believe. And it was like I was looking for somebody to fight for, almost like, so
wow, that I'm sure I can tell that Debbie, this is bringing up some things that Debbie wants to ask a question. Debbie, what would you like to ask Ashley?
Ashley, you're just such a beautiful example of a leader. And we've said that before. You obviously were a very natural leader. I witnessed you lead your kids and then help them be leaders as well. And you bring up all of these leaders. But if we could ask you all the things that you've heard today, what is something that you can help people remember about themselves? What is that message that you can help them remember about themselves?
Gosh, so many beautiful messages. And I'd be lying if I didn't tell you guys my little secret. I have sticky notes everywhere of everybody that was talking, like takeaways. And I really have to go back to Becky Robbins. When she was speaking about creativity this morning, I was like, this woman is this just me. Like, I want to talk with her for hours. We really get to create the life we want. And, I see that in art and dance and music and painting and whatever type of art it is that you love. And that's what dance is dance is an art. And so for me, I grew up as a competition dancer, and I grew up learning the craft, right? You learn the trade in anything. We learn first, but then we have to create with what we know. You have to create. So when Becky was saying creativity, and then she was saying, you're the one you're looking for, it was like, yeah, because what you're looking for is unique to you. What no one else can see what you're seeing in your head and all the messages. And so I just want to say that you really absolutely, without a doubt, you can, and I think we must create the life that we love. And so for me, I call it dancing through life. And for me, dance was always growing up. It was learning other people's way and getting the technique and trying to perfect it. And okay, my hand has to be right here. No, it has to actually be here. No, it actually has to be completely flexed. No, okay, shoulder down, arm out. It was all these little details. And it was like, you're not doing it right unless you're doing it right. And that taught me a lot. And I think we do have to be disciplined in our life. But at a certain point, you have the autonomy of your life, especially when you get old enough to be able to do that. And that's the journey. That's the dance, is now to decide, what are you going to do with all those skills, all those loves, and how are you going to share them with somebody else? I love when Elizabeth just said, it's your duty. You know, I was like, that, yes, it's that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, your confidence is incredible, absolutely incredible. And I was just going to ask if you could tell us about how you have built your confidence through action.
I think confidence, you earn it. I think you take a lot of action. I think that's what it is. And I think through the action, you make mistakes and we get smarter, right? Our brain gets better, right? Thank you, Dr. Rebecca, right? So I think that's it. I think confidence isn't like this little dust and like the powder you put on. Confidence is earned through reps. And I'm proud of the work that I do and I put in, and I'm proud of my students, and I'm proud of my clients, and I'm proud of my friends, and anybody that I'm around that I see doing work. I'm like, you're building it, you're building the muscle, you're putting in the reps. And confidence comes from action. Clarity comes from action. You don't know, like, I think I have this idea. Let me see, I homeschool my kids, and my son actually just started an Instagram channel just 5 days ago now, or 6 days ago. He's like, I don't know if this will work. He just started it and he already has like 3 viral videos, and he's already surpassed my entire Instagram account that I've been working on for 3 years, but that's okay. I'm not going to be sour about it. He's already surpassed it. And it's how he just came, he consumed some stuff. We have to consume, we have to learn. Like I was saying with the dance, I had to learn the techniques. But after you consume so much, you have to take the training wheels off and you have to start creating. So I always say you have to create more than you consume. And to watch him do this right now is like, it's a perfect homeschool experiment, if you will. And I'm like, that's how you build confidence. You create, you start doing, you take action.
That's right. That's awesome. And Debbie, what's another question that you have that's coming to mind?
Well, I have so many for her, but you just led me into, how do you support your students, your friends, your family, your children in your homeschool? How do you manage all of this? Because I think that's the dance of life that you do so beautifully.
I love that question. By trust. I trust. I have a lot of trust. I trust that if it's meant for me, it'll be presented to me, and I will have the knowing that I should proceed with it. If it's presented to me and it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. I learned about 3 years ago, every time I learned this a long time ago, but it really cemented, we hear things a lot and then it hits and you're like, that's the moment. I realized, every time I said yes to something, which I was saying a lot of yeses to, let's say, the homeschool bucket, but then every yes I said to the homeschool bucket, every extra little thing, every extra this was a no to the Ashley entrepreneur bucket. And, we have to balance. I don't even want to use that word. We have to integrate all of us at all the time. And so I'm a better mom when I'm dancing, period. I'm a better human when I'm dancing. I'm happy. I'm energized. I'm healthier. And so by doing more of that, I knew that it would, as everybody's already said, fill your own cup first, fill your own vessel. But, it would make me a better version. So how do I manage it? I just try to stay super true to the things that bring me joy. I am always about following the joy. If I know that it's an energy of a person that's going to steal my energy, I'm sorry. It took me a long time to be able to say no, but it's a no. And that's okay. And I don't have to give an example or a reason why. It's just not right now.
That reminds me that no is a complete sentence.
Yes and no.
Yes. And so do you have a last question, Debbie, that you would like to ask in our next 30 seconds?
Ashley, just one word, because you're all about the word and the emotion. What is the one word you're leaving everybody with today?
Well, my word for the year is trust. So let's leave it. Trust.
Trust. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. And we know we can trust you because of your authenticity and because of the way that you care and the way that you you also empower women, and you just, with your enthusiasm and your confidence, I know that I can trust you as a leader. And so thank you for being that example. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, and keep dancing through life. And leadership is a dance. Yes, yes, yes. And have fun doing it. So thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you both. You're amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Trust. Wasn't that good? Oh my goodness. That was awesome. Wow. Well, our next guest, we have Deb Drummond, and she is an amazing powerhouse woman. Oh my goodness. She is the amazing woman who is the founder of 262, and she is the founder of the movement Show Up, Stand Up, Speak Up, and Say Yes. Say yes to you. So, Deb, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, woman, you are doing a marathon today. I know the shoes that you're sitting in. So I know that you can't see everybody, but that's do some claps and some loves and some hearts and all the things, and just send you energy to rock out the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Well, she's had 7 international companies, extremely successful entrepreneur. Tell us, how did you get into the entrepreneurial world?
Oh my goodness. Well, how long do we have? I'm going to tell you something that I don't really share very often. I think, sometimes I think we choose things, and sometimes I think it chooses us. And I can honestly tell you, I remember standing outside my house. I was 6, and I was looking back at the house, and I just remember hearing, I'm going to have a different life. Now, I couldn't possibly go, okay, well, great, let's go do a business plan and let's make sure that it happens in the world of entrepreneurship, because that was a long time ago and entrepreneurship wasn't really, I would say, accessible. But as my world started to move forward, I'll tell you, the first entrepreneurial experience I had, I was 8 years old, and my mother found herself in a financial compromising position. My father had left and hadn't left a lot of extra. And in those days, if I can say, my mother is 80 and still rocking her world, but she went for I'm going to do some extra apron money. Really, that's what it was called. And she went into a direct sales company called Tupperware. And she took me to her first circle, her first home party, which was at my aunt's house, because we all support each other. And I can tell you to this day, Karen, what I was wearing, where I was standing, and the feeling that I had. And the only way I can explain it is I saw this incredible circle of commerce, and it was joyful, and I was hearing things I wasn't supposed to be hearing. For sure, I was 8. And these women were going for it, and it really made an impression on me enough that I could talk about it with you today and have a visceral experience. I just never forgot that transaction and what it did for our family.
Wow. So young to notice the difference and to be aware, keenly aware, of what your mother was going through and trying to earn money to take care of everything in the wake of that loss in her own life, and to see her courage to step up and to find a way to be involved in direct marketing. That's a really powerful example in your life. Tell us more about your journey.
Well, from there, I fell in love with music, and I love music. And to this day, everyone will tell you, oh, Deb, music. Super excited going to the Junos next week. But so I went into this wonderful world of music. And I actually, for me, all I can say is when the time came that I was supposed to do something different, it became very clear. Now look at Karen, we all didn't get here from doing what we were supposed to be doing. And I remember She Financial gave me an award. One of my first awards was for the woman that was the most misbehaving. So let's face it, I don't do everything I'm told, but when you hear something and you're supposed to do it. Well, I had a pinnacle moment like that when I came back from the club. And, you go out with the bands after and you're organizing and managing and all the things. And I had a very clear indication, and I heard the words, "You're done." And I don't know why. There's more magic to that story, but I literally was taking off my makeup and the mirror went black and I couldn't see myself. And that's a really scary moment. And then when I could see myself again, I heard the words, "I'm done." And I am loyal to a fault. You want someone to hire for your company and I'm going to stay there and we're going to rock and roll. I'm the girl. But I called the club the next day and I said, I'm not coming back. They're like, what's wrong? I go, I don't know. They're like, are you sick? And I'm like, I'm just not coming back. They're like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And the personal journey after that decision, I was going to go to university, get a degree in women's studies and religious studies, and help women in third world countries create economic platforms. Well, I can tell you I had a wonderful surprise, and that wonderful surprise is now 31 years old, and it's my daughter. So I didn't go to school for 4 years, but I was pregnant. I was wheat-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free, and about 45-minute drive from my home was a muffin shop. And I wanted a muffin. So we went, and there was a pink flyer, and I took that flyer, and it changed my life. And it introduced me to holistic healthcare before anyone could say holistic healthcare. And I created holistic companies. People call me a professional hippie. So I'm all about it. I'm like, I want to dance with that girl. If she lives in Vancouver, Canada, I'm like, I want to go to your dance class. I'm all that, but my brain kind of works like an engineer, and I live in this kind of top performance, reverse engineer, let's do a business plan. And it's kind of interesting. It's very not common, I would say. So for me, building companies is a creative process, but it also creates platforms for women and those that support women to stand up, speak up, and show up in their business and personal lives. I've had 7 companies, and that has been the mission statement to every single one of them.
Wow. So we've been talking a lot about how can we find a friend and a woman who supports us, a woman who is empowering another woman, and how that is oftentimes a rare thing for us to find in life. And so for you to have this community of women entrepreneurs who are supporting each other is very powerful. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. And, I've been hearing women speak because I've been popping on and off all day. And I've been hearing that, and I understand that. And we've all had a bit of experience with that, but I can tell you more so than not, I had the other experience. Even when we were in the club scene and everyone's like, oh, it's the club scene. There's really something powerful about finding your tribe. Functional, dysfunctional, finding your tribe. We were all doing the deal. We were rock and roll sisters. I love, and then again, I went and built a holistic health studio, right? And I always had our staff meeting in circles. It was like we showed up to work as who we were. We didn't have to put a jacket on and be something different. And I can tell you, I believe one of the reasons why the 262, and there's more than 262 women, there's almost 1,000 at this point. The 262 movement is so strong is because we did conversation over application. And honest to goodness, I swear to God, it almost, I needed a lot of massage and a lot of help through it. But when women wanted to speak on our stages, when they wanted to come into the book, people would say to me, how are you going to fill a book of 262? I'm like, hey, man, we still have 30 spots left. We're still going. What's going to happen is they're going to show up. I don't know I think we're going to coin something new today, Karen. We're going to call it the Noah's Ark theory. You're going to build it and they're going to come. And that's what happened. And women like, I want to talk, you talk to my girlfriend. I want you to talk to my wife. I want you to talk to my sister. I want you to talk. And so I would have these conversations and I'd get to know people. And I didn't have to filter anyone or ever say no to anyone. It wasn't that kind of conversation. But here's the truth. If a woman didn't resonate with the art, we have one mission: to help women stand up, speak up, and show up in their business, personal lives, and to create a circle of solidarity so that every woman honors International Women's Day the way a mom does Mother's Day. That came to me as a message after I watched Seeing All Red. Thank you, Gloria Allred. That was the message I got after that movie. So a lot of this is divine, but it's been a lot of hard work. And honestly, if a woman didn't kind of resonate to that, she just didn't show up for us. Or she had a conversation with us and was like, not really. And we're like, groovy, come to the audience. You don't have to be on the stage, come to the audience. So I think because we actually did that extra due diligence to let women know what we were about, then they got to choose whether they resonated with us, not the other way around.
Oh, Deb, this is so powerful. A circle of solidarity. Wow. Don't we all just want to have a circle of solidarity with the women in our life so that we can strengthen each other? Because, connection is protection. And to have other women that support us, that are on this entrepreneurial journey, that are cheering for us as you are cheering and emulating that as an example to help your people have this abundance mentality in this huge organization that you have, all of these women. So it's a very powerful movement that you have that is going on. Could you tell us how you help women to have the confidence to show up and stand up and speak up?
You know what? Thank you so much. And I want to say that the community almost built itself. And I'm going to give credit to all the community because I know lots showed up today. And they have created what's called a sustainable soulpreneur sisterhood. And I believe what we do, because we are full of self-funding women of gumption, is that we give platform for them to have voice. So I think where the confidence comes in is in 2 words. Our summit is stand up, speak up, and show up. Yes, you. Now, because we have celebrities and we have women that have done some cool things. I mean, look at your panel, Karen. Look at you. I'm so glad we're going to be talking. But, you know, there's a lot of times women go like, I can't get on stage with her. I can't get on stage with, like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, if you are sitting across the screen from me, you're ready. And so we're very curated in relationship to, we're like, what is it? What do you need to feel ready? Like, and we actually dig into the how, not the what. So everyone comes to the party with their own thoughts, and it's just about us working through that and being real. Like, if there's anything I can say about leadership, we don't only just want women and those that support women to be able to stand up and be their best. We need them to be their best. And so therefore, we have to be truthful and we have to be honest. And I tell women, like, you want to expand and go big in your life. Let's prepare you to be uncomfortable, because you're going to be. Ooh. And so we're really honest and truthful, but we surround, and I think because our word is solidarity, is that that's an unusual feeling. So I say to a woman, I go, to feel like you have solidarity at your back. That's why we had 22 summits in 15 months, always on the 8th day of the month, to remind women it's not an International Women's Day. It's an International Women's Life. And when you can wake up in the morning and think, man, I feel like, have you ever, like, okay, have you ever meant to do something, or you ever, the Irish saying, wind at your back? Like, you've been scared to do something, but you do it anyways, and you don't know where that courage came from. We can never know where the courage came from, but it could have been from a woman in Ireland or in Poland or in Nigeria that just said no to somebody or said yes to somebody. And this ripple effect has made me open the door and say no to somebody or yes to somebody. So we work on that philosophy. And I think confidence comes from admitting where you're at, and a leader admitting that they were there too, and walking you through the how, instead of, it's okay, you'll be fine, just get real. And then everybody's prepared for what's about to happen.
Right. So I wanted to share something that Carol Fucillo Kappelman said. She said, soulpreneur sisterhood. And I just thought, wow, this circle of solidarity with soulpreneur sisterhood, where you feel safe to stand up, to show up, to speak up. That can be very scary. And yet to have this vibrant community with you at the helm, leading the way and providing these opportunities for women is just so exciting. And Deb, I would love to continue on, but we are out of time. And so thank you so much for sharing your message. And we will definitely have you on again, because your energy is contagious, and the comments are just flying, because people are so happy to hear what you have to say, and so happy to hear about your movement, so that you can say yes to you. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you for the LA Tribune for this whole summit. And I will see you soon, my friend.
Okay, can't wait. We'll talk to you soon. Wow. Oh my goodness. This is just so much fun. So many amazing women. And we have 2 more amazing women. So Nicole Cowley is a founding member of the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal. Just a heart of gold. Like we were talking about, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, do you hear someone's voice and it just immediately calms your nervous system? I can't remember who that was. But anyway, I thought about Nicole's voice and how she has that voice, and Elizabeth has that voice, her voice. And so it's just beautiful. I wanted to let Nicole introduce Elizabeth. She is an author also with the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal, and I'm excited to hear her story.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. And this has been phenomenal today. And being able to see you two here right now is so great. And I have the honor and privilege of introducing my dear friend, my really dear friend, and also the most heartfelt leader, Elizabeth Canty. So Elizabeth is an award-winning author of the book Living Enlightened. She is also an inner transformational coach, which she helps people all over the world connect to their spirituality, to their divinity, so that they can live with passion and purpose. She has a beautiful podcast and a YouTube channel called Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Canty, where she interviews super impactful spiritual leaders around the globe. And they have these deep, beautiful conversations that lift you up. She's a keynote speaker, but all these accolades really aren't even close to the person she is as a human. And I'm so excited to hear from you today. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Nicole. This has been the most incredible experience all day long, Karen. Everything, I'm just blown away and I'm super excited to be here. I just want to thank you and the Los Angeles Tribune and Mo and Mike and the Women's Journal. This is phenomenal.
Well,
yes,
thank you, Karen.
I can't wait, because Nicole's story is a powerful story. I can't wait to hear your story. And so Elizabeth's story will be coming out in our upcoming issue. But Elizabeth, as a leader, could you tell us some about your journey in leadership and about how you learned about integrity as a leader? Because that's something that is often challenged as a leader.
Oh, wow. Well, Nicole mentioned my book, Living Enlightened, but the tag, or what's it called? The second part of that title is the joy of integrating spirit, mind, and body. So for me, integration and being integral is so important. And I've heard so many women speak about this state. So we, as women, the feminine divine energy, know that integrating all of who we are, for me, is just one of the most important aspects of being in our power. If we're missing some part of ourselves, we're not really standing in our full potential. And I always think of it as like the bicycle wheel. If some of those spokes are broken, then the stress on that wheel starts to bend, it starts to crimp. And then the wheel eventually just kind of falls apart, doesn't work. No matter how great all the other parts are, that bicycle isn't a bicycle anymore. It's not going to function. It's out of integrity. And so for me, it's just allowing all my bits and pieces, everything to come together into whatever I am doing. Therefore, I really believe that whatever I'm doing is leadership. I'm always leading. And look how many women today honor the fact that we lead. For me, I lead myself first. I lead me into wholeness and health and joy and happiness. And then I lead my family or those who are close to me. And then I can branch that out and lead by example, just being me, allowing everyone else to be them. And then wherever we bring that into our entrepreneurship or as a CEO or whatever we're doing, we are integrating all of who we are.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. The integration that is so important, because as leaders, there's so many different parts of us and there's so many different things that we have going on. There's so many things pulling at us. And this element of integrity, being true to ourselves and being true to our values and being true to those that we lead. Did you ever have an experience where it was challenging for you to act in integrity?
Well, when I think of it as like all those bits and pieces and parts, when I first stepped into leadership, the first story that comes to mind, I was a little shocked. I had just stepped into a leadership position on a board at a spiritual living organization, and maybe before I was really ready, but when are we ever really ready? We learn by doing. I was so excited. I was so eager, and I'm there and something just feels off. It just feels I couldn't even tell. I didn't even know. And then I realized it was around our board treasurer. You know, have you ever felt that quiet knowing? I've heard women talk today, you know, that inner knowing, but doubted yourself because no one else really saw or sees what you see. I started asking these trusted board members quietly, you know, discreetly, carefully, what do you think about him? And every response I got was just glowing. So I'm the new kid on the block, and I think, oh, maybe I'm just imagining it. But that feeling didn't go away. And so I did something I'm not very good at. I went through the books myself. I knew I had to just satisfy my mind and search for this clarity and resolution. And just, you know, imagine me sitting there, my heart pounding, realizing that the numbers don't add up.
Oh, that sick feeling.
Thank you. It is a sick feeling, and nothing really prepares you for that. I realized he had been stealing money, and in that moment, you know, well, I guess sometimes you don't know you have a choice, but I knew I had a choice. I could lead, you know, with judgment or kind of this resentment or this, I was feeling myself contracting around this, or lead with love and compassion, which is my nature. So once again, I have to just, you know, expand into my nature, all of who I am. And I met with him one-on-one and just kind of, you know, spoke with him. And yes, he admitted it, took responsibility, and I brought it to the board. And even the board, I thought they've known this person for a long time. They obviously were trusting him, and I thought they would be very angry, but they looked to me and they stood with me in compassion and grace, which no one excused his actions. But they also didn't tear him down. And I feel like we created a space where accountability and love and compassion could all coexist. And then he agreed to pay back every penny. Wow. No matter how long it took. I know, which was crazy. And it took a long time. But in that process, we all grew stronger. And of course, you know, I just gained a much deeper understanding of what leadership is for me. And
well, I just have to say how incredible being the new kid on the block and discovering this egregious behavior that is going on with this stealing and not knowing, is the board going to support me? They had all just given you these glowing reports about him. This would be such a challenging thing where, do I just not say anything? Do I just let it go? And yet you were true to yourself. And then to lead with love so that you approached him in a loving way so that he made the right choice to pay that back. What a difference in the trajectory of the whole dynamic. And for you, but for you as a leader to lead with love. So powerful, Elizabeth.
Well, you know, I knew then, and it's always hard to practice, but I knew that for me personally, the idea of leadership was always about not really what we're saying, not even what we're doing, but it's who we are being. Yeah. And it's that state of being. And again, for me, that natural state, if I am in integrity, it's love and compassion is sort of my rock. You know, that's who I am, and my inner power comes from that. So when I step away from love and compassion, I step away from my power.
Absolutely, absolutely, Nicole. I would like to turn the time over to you and allow you to ask a question.
Oh, this is also beautiful, and honestly, I was just thinking of all the decisions you've had to make. And when you step into that position, that was not an easy position to step into. I want to ask you, because I really want to know this myself, is when think back to when you were young, when you started to recognize that you could be a leader or you took leadership. When did that happen for you? And if you can think of a time that you recognized yourself as a leader.
Oh, wow. It came as a surprise. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be really honest. Yeah, no. Well, that's so weird that you asked me this. Okay, so when I was really little, I don't tell many people this, but I went to Catholic grade school in high school, and in 8th grade, a bunch of kids came over, and they were supposed to be our buddies when we went to the high school, and they sat us around in the field and asked us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I just said a priest, because Karen's laughing. Yes, well, they were a little silent because this 10th grader was like, "You mean a nun?" And I'm like, no. But there was something about that. Like, I knew I wanted to be that, person up on the altar, speaking to God, knowing my divine source, reading from sacred text. So I guess somewhere along the way there was that inkling, but I was very shy. And I know a lot of women have come on and talked about confidence and different things. And so for me, it was a slow build, and it came with finding the right mentors. I had the most amazing mentors in my life, and coaches and programs. And when you start having the experience, who else was so many people were talking about, meditation or being in nature. So when I learned to meditate, when I knew that nature was another one of those rocks for me, when I'm in nature or after I've meditated, I just get these downloads. And when you have that knowing, that inner knowing, I say inner knowing equals inner power. Because when we know who we are, you can't not be who you know yourself to be. That's confidence. That's that power that doesn't come from me, my little self, or what I'm trained to do. It comes from, I'll say, source. Some people might say God, or our highest intuition. And that's what I call that, standing in love and compassion too. Yeah.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. Karen? Oh, you're muted.
Gotta unmute myself. Yes. I was just laughing when you said that you wanted to be the priest because, no, don't you mean to be a nun? No. No. Oh my goodness. But one of the things that you said, that inner knowing is power. That is so incredible, because we talked about being aligned with God, the light, the universe, source, whatever you call that. But when we are in alignment, it is so powerful. And that is when flow happens for me. And I know that is what happens for you too. You have so much love. That is your being. That is your brand. Right there is your compassion and your love. And I just appreciate that so much. And that story that you told, at the Spiritual Living Center was a perfect example. So I'm gonna ask you another question here. A lot of times we think that leadership is about the title. Am I the president? Am I the CEO? And what does leadership mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I say leadership is not about a title, because as I mentioned, and so many beautiful women mentioned too, we're always leading. And if we don't think we are, then we're missing our opportunities to stand in our own power. So it's not about the titles, and yet sometimes the titles give us permission. They give us permission to grow and expand. So, I'm not going to dismiss the titles. I appreciate many of them, and it's really both and. But there's something that I was learning kind of around the time when I was stepping into leadership, and that one story that I mentioned, there's a few more, But it's that idea that I was so many times in my life, I've been in this almost surreal place where it feels like the world is a stage, to quote some Shakespeare, and that all these players are coming into my life, like that board treasurer. And in another instance, a board president, and things that I went through with her. And it was like they're all there to show me how I am supposed to grow and expand into my leadership. So it was like, wow, they're doing this for me. They're not doing it to me. They're doing this for me. So I get to stand in me, in that integrated part of me, all of me, the whole of me. Or sometimes if I falter and kind of miss out on the lesson, somebody else will just come and do it again. It'll be another beautiful lesson.
Right. Oh my goodness. So I wonder if you could tell us another story about leadership in your life that has had a big impact on you.
Well, I can mention the board president. I had just chosen this really incredible woman. I heard that the two women, Anna, I forgot the other one's name.
Rachel.
Yes, and they were just talking so beautifully about how connected they were. And I had this beautiful forward-thinking visionary, and she truly supported me. And together, we weren't just following the old models or what had been set up. We were creating, or we felt like we were creating just something new. And for me, when I am in that flow state that you mentioned, Karen, like the synchronicities are unfolding, like everything's happening almost before it comes out of my mouth, something amazing is happening. And have you ever had like that teammate or partner or colleague who truly saw you and your vision, and they were just like, yes, they're standing right there with you? And then just 4 months into my contract, a contract that she drew up and signed, and a contract with a lot of performance clauses, which I had met or exceeded and challenged me to grow into. And she came to me and said, the board's decided we're not going to pay you. And then she had a new set of clauses that were astronomical. I guess they thought I was Superwoman, which, I am, but I wanted to be paid.
Exactly.
So it just, honestly, it felt like the wind was just knocked out of those sails because I was flying, I was soaring. I was feeling so aligned in integrity, building this community and this business into this, exciting new model. And then in that moment, it just felt like everything crumbling and my heart breaking. And, pouring your heart into something and delivering what you promised and even more, and then being told that you wouldn't be compensated felt like, betrayal. And like my self-worth was just shattered in that moment. And you know what I really wanted to do? I was so hurt. I just felt the little girl in me. I just wanted to cry, pick up my ball, and run off the playground.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm telling you, but at that point, I also learned that leadership isn't about reacting. It's about responding. And I went right back to my heart center. And in that heart-centered place, I didn't know what to do. Who knows what to do in that? They don't teach you that in school. And so I had this download, and it's just like reach out to these board members one by one. And I asked them with compassion and with no expectation of what they would say. It's like, do you feel that I lived up to my contract? Have I fulfilled what I set out to do and what you expected of me? And one by one, they answered, heart to heart, yes. Thank you. You've done everything you said. And then I asked if they're going to stand by their decision, and every one of them reversed their decision, except for the president. And, at the time, I really wanted her to change her mind, but it just wasn't in the cards. And again, that's just part of how we all need to expand and grow. And it was a great lesson. My trial by fire, my being on stage and watching these actors come up and give me these amazing lessons, because it wasn't about forcing others to see my worth. It was about me knowing my value and what I was going to do and how I was going to stand in it, whether it was accepted or not, whether they were going to say, yeah, sorry, either you do this, jump through this next set of hoops, and I was like, I'm good. I'm good with who I am. And it wasn't about winning them over. It was about being who I am. Who am I being in that moment?
Oh, yes. And Nicole, I'm going to let you turn the time over to you for our last question to respond to Elizabeth's comments.
Sure. And Elizabeth, that was beautiful. And I think, what we all got from that is so many leaders learn how to respond, right? Instead of just react, or learning how to ask the right questions and get the information. If you could leave people today with one thing that you would love them to take away in their heart about leadership and how to show up in this world, what would it be for you?
Thank you for asking that. What comes to mind for me is, I did think of leadership as pushing forward, achieving more, taking the next quantum leap. But sometimes leadership is calling for us to surrender. As someone mentioned that today, and take a step back and show up in a completely different way. And as I mentioned, I had been riding high as just a leader, spiritual director, guiding a spiritual community. And I knew what it meant to show up as an entrepreneur, as a mom, and to lead and to inspire. And I had this vision for the future, and felt so big. And have you ever been at the peak of something in your career? A few women today mentioned this, a dream, a mission, only to have life throw you a completely different set of circumstances. Well, my son got really sick in high school, and not just a passing illness, something deeper. And I just found myself really in this mode of praying for, some real support to come in at work. I was calling on every source of support I can find, but I felt like the answers weren't coming. And I was at the airport. I just ran into a random friend and trying to catch her up with my life. And I was just about to tell her that, my prayers hadn't been answered, which is such a strange thing for me to say, because right before those words left my mouth, I had this moment of absolute clarity. The answer to my prayer wasn't coming because I was the answer. I was supposed to stay home with my son. And I realized that hard no I had been receiving was actually the divine yes. And it was really pointing me to what really matters. And in one way, it was the hardest decision. I had to step down from my leadership position. And it was so unexpected. But, when when you're in alignment, everything feels good. And instead of the struggle of finding someone, it was like, oh, the someone's right here. And I know what I'm supposed to do. And I had spent my life, really teaching and preaching about balance and inner power and love. And now it was time to just step back into it in a whole new way. And I always taught that we as women are leaders for ourselves first and our families first, and only always. And so that, sometimes leadership is calling for us to surrender instead of push forward. And I became my son's advocate. I was there for him with doctors and hospitals, insurance companies, and fighting for him and really leading him, because he was so much older now, in a way that he had never seen me and I had never seen him. And because of that, I was able to show up for him. Today, he is happy, healthy, and thriving. But we have a bond that is unlike anything I could have imagined. So, long way to answer your question, Nicole, but what if your greatest leadership moment isn't about leading the world, but being present with the ones who need you the most.
Oh, this was so powerful, Elizabeth. And I'm gonna let you wrap that up, Nicole, because that was amazing. And Terry, the author, said, just like Becky stated, waiting for you to show up for you, and you showed up not just for you, but for your son. And Nicole, I'll turn the last 30 seconds.
So beautiful. Yeah, that was so beautiful, Elizabeth. And I think I was thinking about it at the beginning with Dr. Emily Letran. She was talking about sacrifice and, really being there for your family and doing different things. That is a huge part of leadership. And I see that in what you just shared today. And so I thank you, because there were so many beautiful nuggets, and surrendering, so beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was beautiful.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder to the grandmoms and the aunts and the sisters that it's not the title, it's being there. It's just showing up as who we are, fully, completely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Can't wait to hear your story and have everybody read that in the next Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal issue that is coming up.
Thank you. And it's such a privilege and an honor to be here today and to listen to all of these amazing women, including you two, the two right there.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are going to bring up our panel, and we have some more incredible women. We have Alex Terry, who is here from Australia, and we have Gail Larson, who is living in Las Vegas, but she is on vacation, and she even sacrificed to be with us while she is on a trip. So that is so awesome. And we are so happy to have you guys here. And we have this, one of the things that Elizabeth was talking about was this community, and we, Deb Drummond talked about this empowering group of women. And that's one of the things that we have with the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal community. Do you love these women that have been on the show today? I mean, are they just so incredible, so strong, so powerful, and yet so loving? And that's the kind of women that we attract at the Women's Journal. And if you would like to share your story, if you would like to speak on stages like Gail and Terry and Nicole and Elizabeth and all of these women, let me know, because I can help you, and we can get you ready for the stage, and we can also help you to share your story in the Women's Journal. Terry and Gail, Terry's not on yet. They are going to be having their stories published as well. So we're going to start with Gail, who is a 2-time award-winning author, speaker, and entrepreneur. And we also, she is sharing with us. She's also an educator. And so, Gail, if you could tell us a little bit about how you show up as a leader in the world.
Well, I appreciate that question. Just from the very beginning, and when I say the beginning, we have to go back 45 years, if that's believable. I was a teacher, and I was walking in the footsteps of my mother, who was teaching at the same school and had been there for 30 years herself. And so I had big shoes to step into, because everyone knew her. And then here it is, the youngest daughter coming on stage. So I had to immediately, at least in my mind, get up to speed to meet all of those expectations. And so when I see myself as a leader, it's because I've had leaders before me. And I am part of that legacy of all of those that have been in education before me, my mother, my grandmother, all in education. And so in that way, as I stepped into her shoes, I also became a leader. And then taught for 15 years, then I went into publishing and became a leader in that regard, because I want to stay in education by going into educational publishing. So yes, you're there, I was a leader.
Fantastic. So many ways that you are leading, and so many powerful women who are examples to you as well. And how about you, Nicole? Nicole is a transformational coach. She is the CEO of Step Up with Nicole Renee. She is also a hypnotist who who has the most soothing voice, that when you hear her voice, it just immediately calms your nervous system. And she has so much love in her heart. She has the gift of words of affirmation. And so, Nicole, how do you show up as a leader?
I think when we talk about leadership, I've learned a lot of my leadership through my children and having to stand up and be the mom that I wanted to be. Years ago, I had to start over in my life over 10 years ago. And I really had to step into a leader in a way I never thought I would. And so I can really, truly say from my heart that leadership has been learned as I go along. And, I do know lots of times if I'm showing up the way I want to show up is by how my children are doing or how we are doing as a family. And so I would say that, leadership for me is not just telling my kids what they need to do and do the things. I need to be it first. I have to be it first and then ask them to join me along the road. And that's so important to me.
Oh, yes, be it first and learn as you are doing. I think a lot of us are learning as we go. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That's how we learn, is to take action. And Alex Terry she is a podcaster, and her podcast is Conscious Leadership. One of the beautiful things about Alex is that she does have a high consciousness. She is another woman who has such an abundant mindset, who is spiritual, who is generous, and she loves to connect people. I recently interviewed her on my podcast. And so, Alex, tell us how you show up as a leader.
I feel very emotional because I want to say, first of all, just give you, Karen, a few minutes probably of gratitude, because what you're doing here is absolutely amazing. And I'm learning so much from you, how you're showing up. And it's so inspiring. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to be here all day because it's so beautiful. So look, I think, again, I learned from you as well. I learned through relationships. I think that's the major thing what kind of opened up my eyes, because I was a natural leader. I was always that scared one. I wasn't sure if I belonged somewhere. I felt always outside of everything and everyone. I was like, I don't belong there. I'm different. And I felt always out. But what I realized that my kind of circle of people, environment is reflection of me, or is someone here to help me to learn. So I learned so much just to seeing, I don't know, my husband, for example, or seeing friends, and realize that actually why they are the way they are is because of me. And I started to change and be actually conscious about everything what people say here, right? Conscious about our emotions, our energy, and how we influence each other, because we are influencing each other 100% of the time, all the time. So yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And you are so supportive, and you're wonderful, the way that you encourage and the way that you connect, and how relationships are so important to you. Thank you so much. And Terry Clifton is with us. We are so glad to have Terry on. And Terry is a nurse, and she works in she's a nurse informaticist. Wow, try and say that 3 times. She's a very spiritual person, and she has a heart of gold. And so, Terry, if you could tell us how you show up in the world as a leader.
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, Karen, for having me on here. I think Los Angeles Tribune, and it's so great to be connected here with all of these phenomenal women. I say, first of all, to show up as a leader, I have to be intentional. Intentional with actions. There has to be a methodology to it. Also with authenticity, and just to make sure that every voice is heard and that every member of the team feels that they are heard. Because when people feel that they're heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, they put forth their best effort and their best work. So it just makes a more productive environment for everyone.
Wow. I mean, don't we all just universally, we all want to feel seen, heard, and valued. And for you to create that is such a powerful skill as a leader. And so, Gail, you started telling us about the women in your life that were mentors for you. And I want to hear some more about the lessons that you learned from the mentors. Take about 1 minute, and then we'll go around and ask everybody that question.
Well, one of the most important lessons that I learned is the fact that you have to see yourself as part of the team, even though you are a leader, because it's more about collaboration. And when you collaborate, you get so much more done than being that person that is just trying to manage and to make assignments for people. If they see you as part of the team, even though you are the leader, they're also going to see you as a mentor. They're also going to see you as a coach, not as someone who needs to be feared. And so that's one of the lessons. You have to be part of the team, and they have to see you pretty much as equals.
Wow, that is something. How many times you have a leader and you're afraid, and so you don't want to go in and talk to them, but yes, if you know that they are part of the team, wow, that's really powerful. How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, making people feel safe in their space and that they're heard and all those things. What Gail was just saying, that you feel that you're part of the team. And then when you're part of the team, you want to take part and be part of the leadership too. You want the project to go really well. I think one of the skills for leadership that I always admire so much, and many of my mentors had it, was the skill of listening, was being able to really hear what you had to say and be able to make you feel seen and heard, and also part of the solution, always part of the solution, so that you are really actually invested in how everything's going to go. So that has always been one of the things that I continue to work on, is the actual listening, hearing, acknowledging, and then asking them to be part of the solution so we can do it together.
Oh, that's excellent. Yes, that listening. Oh my goodness. Listening is so important. So many times that's not happening. How about you, Terry? Who has been a mentor in your life?
My mentors for me initially were my parents. And I remember, just as Deborah Drummond had mentioned earlier about the Tupperware parties that she witnessed, that her mom was leading. My mom sold Avon. She sold interior decorators. She sold so many things. And I watch her have these parties. And my dad was a military sergeant too. He was retired. But seeing their leadership, I knew from the age of 9 that I was meant to be a leader. And I could still recall making pretend business phone calls and delegating tasks to my fake secretary. I remember that. I remember every time they left the house, I would use their desk and I'd clean it off like it was mine, and I'm making all these shots. And so I knew I was called to be a leader. I just didn't know what at that time, but now I'm a leader in the world of nursing informatics.
Oh, wow. And so I want to ask you, as a leader, what is the difference that you are trying to make in your circle that you are dealing with? And I'm going to start with you, Terry. How are you making a difference as a leader?
Sure, definitely. I believe, first of all, in making a difference, you have to be the example. And so I know authenticity has been a theme throughout, and self-care has been a theme throughout today. And I do believe that if we take care of ourselves, I do believe self-preservation is key, that we can show up as our best selves. If we're authentic, and if we're not authentic, people can tell. They can really tell if you're not being transparent, if you're not being real. But in being authentic and transparent, I believe in showing up as a leader, exhibiting these character traits really helps to develop trust and rapport with team members.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you're authentic, then I do know that I can trust you. And I feel that. I feel that from you. How about you, Alex? Tell us about what would you like to accomplish as a leader, and what are you doing to accomplish that?
I think from perspective of what everyone shares, I feel like I will be just continuing the same thing. But I want to say that there are such a beautiful perspectives, and I'm absolutely big fan of being conscious, being authentic, and understand your self-worth. So don't try to fit in and become someone else, because sometimes people get leadership position and they try to become something they are not. And I think that's where we experience a lot of toxicity, because we pretend we are someone, but we are not that. So people can trust us, and trust is big foundation of the leadership. If people don't trust you, they will never follow you. So for me, it's always those beautiful relationships, and trying to understand, if I don't fit with someone, if we are not a great match, don't do it, don't push it, right? Just really go in the flow, try to find the best people around you, and surround yourself, in your team as well, with best people, and listen to your guts, right? Like we have a feeling and intuition always. When we are trying to hire someone, or we are doing something, some conversations with people, we know there is something off, and we are usually really right in our body. So I always said, just really be you and be there, be present, and build up on those relationships with vulnerability and authenticity. So everything what you said already, ladies.
Yeah. So Barbie Ray said it so well. If people don't trust you, they will never follow you. And so that trust is so crucial. You said it so well, Alex, that relationship is how we build that trust. Absolutely. And how about you, Gail? Tell us about what you hope to accomplish as a leader.
So, building on that comment that Alex made in terms of trust, in order to establish that trust, you have to have transparency. So, when I was in the position as a regional manager in my last organization, it was very important to me that as I talked about projects going forward as a team, my team needed to know why we were doing XYZ. And in that same vein, as I am explaining why, I'm also sharing with them why it's important. So then they know it's not like just being told what to do. They understand what the overall purpose is for what they're doing. So transparency is absolutely key to being a leader.
Yes, that transparency, because again, that builds that trust. If I know that you are going to be transparent, that you're not trying to hide something or be something that you're not, that's massive. Thank you so much, Gail. Another thing that I want to know, I want to hear a story from each one of you about an obstacle that you have had to overcome in your life that has made you the leader that you are today. And I am going to start with Alex. What is an obstacle that you've had to overcome?
I had a feeling. I was like, it's coming. So for me, this is probably a very personal story. But when I was going through journey, I can't have kids, and all this kind of revealed to me. I was actually the one that kind of deal with it, but I realized that my husband, didn't deal with it, and he had really hard time, and I couldn't understand the relationship between us, and it was really hard. So for me, that was the story when I said that I'm learning from other people. When I realized I saw him and I was telling him to change, I was like, you need to be more fun. You need to, we need to do more. And was trying to change him. And I was like, no, actually, it's me who needs to change. It's actually not him. And that was probably the biggest realization. And that actually took me on the journey of conscious leadership, because I realize every day I'm influencing him and I'm pushing him to do something. And I'm actually the person that can change that. So that was my biggest learning, because when I started to, healthy diet, I was like, no, let's get us back together, because we are all like sad and depressed, and it's not fun to live here. I was like, let's make it fun. So I had to change. And what happened? I didn't tell him to follow me. He started to do things, and we started to do it together. So for me, that was the power of talk the talk, walk the walk, be the person you want to be, and become who you want to become. So then people can follow you, can trust you, and you can actually change the world that way, or change people. And you don't need to be a leader. It can be, anywhere, with your kids, at home, everywhere. So that was probably the biggest kind of realization. And we changed, he lost 16, 20 kilos. It was great. I was like, finally, he looks good again. So
it's it's an interesting phenomenon. We really are. We are the only one that can change, and they were the only one we have control over. And when we drop that need to try and change someone else, that's when they drop the resistance, and that is when they have the freedom to make that change. And that's exactly what happened with your husband.
I think it's the safe environment, right? That's why we are creating the safe environment. Don't push. Don't try, and just create the environment of trust and safe.
Right. Absolutely. How about you, Gail? What's an obstacle that you have had to overcome that's impacted your leadership?
Well, I have to go back to the time of the pandemic. I know that everyone has their stories of the pandemic, and they were here, and then all of a sudden everything shut down. But I had found myself with an extended stay in the hospital. And so dealing with sepsis and then double pneumonia, and then coming through that to go home and find out that 2 weeks after that, my sister had passed away. I mean, I didn't find out. She had gotten COVID, and then she had passed away as well. And then at the same time, I'm coming back to lead my team. And my team also dealing with either loss or people having loss of jobs and so forth. So what I needed to overcome and to help everyone else is just to provide hope that things can get better and to be a force that they could see that I'm moving forward despite the obstacles that I had to go through as well. So I would have to say that was the major obstacle that I had in
Yeah.
coming back from COVID and also trying to motivate my team at the same time.
Right, because they're dealing with losses, fears. We all had so many fears and losses during COVID, and to be that leader, to step up and to be that reassurance for your team. Very powerful, Gail. How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I can relate to what Gail was talking about at a different level, but very similar things. As 10 years ago, I did have to start over. I was a stay-at-home mom who my marriage basically ended overnight, and I had to now go back and figure out how to financially support us, but not just financially. I had to emotionally support these two little ones that were also looking at me saying our lives have changed. And so I remember thinking, oh my gosh, not only do I have to take care of them, I have to take care of myself. And then I have to find an income and I have to figure this all out. And I remember the whole time is, what I realized is I really had to get really deeply rooted into my power, what was possible. And then I had to show my children, just like Gail was talking about, the ability to hope again, that everything's going to be okay, that you can provide stability, that you can provide safety. And that takes a lot of work when you're really at a very low place in your self-esteem, in your self-confidence, is to build that again. But I know that every single step that I took showed them every single step they could take. And so as long as I was continually leading, they were going to be okay. And so I knew that was just my key, was to keep going and to be there for them and to show them the way and show them that whatever comes their way in the future, they can get through it too. And I had to be the example.
Wow, Nicole, every step that you took showed them that they could take that step. How many times do we feel that fear? But when we see someone else doing it, they give us permission to do it in our own life. What a powerful example you are for your children and for all of the women that you influence. Thank you. How about you, Terry?
Hi, for me, it was self-doubt, self-deprecating behaviors. As a woman, being a leader, we're second judged. And then sometimes being an African-American woman as a leader, you're also second judged for that reason as well. So sometimes it would cause me to doubt. And I had to really leverage the word of God for it to declare who I was. And I had to allow that to infiltrate my spirit. There's so many scriptures. I can do all things through Christ. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper, not to harm you. I had to leverage that word to actually infiltrate my spirit so that I could believe in myself and trust on his word that he has me. And wherever he placed me, he's already equipped me with whatever I need.
Yes, he has already equipped you with what you need. And I love that scripture in Jeremiah, that he has plans to prosper us and not to harm us, and that we can trust in him. He is the greatest person that we can trust in, and he is our leader. Know who our leader is. And so we can trust in the universe, source, however you describe that. But yes, we are equipped with everything that we need, and to tap into that, to be able to use that. Well, for our last question, just one word answer. If you could tell me, what is the most important word that you would say that a leader needs to possess, the character trait that a leader needs? And I'm going to start with Nicole.
All right. One word. I think the most important word for me is possibility. Always seeing what is possible. Always.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Possibility. That is great. How about you, Gail?
Perseverance.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yes. Perseverance. How about you, Alex?
Consciousness, of course.
Of course, consciousness. Yes. Conscious leadership. Absolutely. How about you, Terry?
Resilience, I'll say. Yeah, because
awesome.
things will change. You have to always be resilient and be flexible.
Yes. Thank you, ladies. This was such an amazing panel. You guys are great. So Terry and Gail are both new authors, and they are going to have their article in the upcoming Women's Journal. And so stay tuned because you're going to want to hear more of what they have to say. And Alex, we want your story in there too. Nicole had hers published, but she's going to have another one too. So thank you, ladies. You're a beautiful panel, and it was wonderful to be with you today.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. It's been amazing.
Bye.
Wow. Wow. Great. That was very fun. Well, our next guest is Chef Rosie. And Chef Rosie, she was on at the very beginning. And so I just wanted to welcome her back. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Karen. What an extraordinary day. Like this has been, I've been watching all day. I've been hooked to my TV screen.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. My goodness, that's so rare.
What a marathon. How do you do it? So that's, you're magical. Magical. But thank you again. I'm so grateful to be here and share my story with you. Thank you.
Well, tell us more about you, because I know you are such a heart-centered leader, and I know that you do so much service in the community, feeding from Provecho, your restaurant. And so tell us more about you as a person.
I generally love people. I really have a strong connection with God, source, the universe. And I've been very fortunate. I know that my intention wasn't to become a chef, and being a chef just happened. I knew I had an aha moment when I was 9 years old that I was going to own a restaurant. And when I went to help this individual, and this was 13 years ago, I went to help him with his restaurant, and he said, make me an offer. There's 9 ways to skin a cat. And I remember thinking, like, that was the first time I've ever heard of that. 9 ways to skin a cat. And we, on a napkin back and forth, he gave me his restaurant, and I was able to pay him back in a few years. And I started my journey. And the chef that was there had bid on the restaurant, and he ended up leaving. And I remember when he handed me the key, and I thought, oh my gosh. And I had gone to culinary school, but I went to culinary school to become a mentor, to have an idea of what my chef would need, and also to finish something that has started at 19. And this was when I was 40 years old. I had made a couple of changes, and I wanted to improve my life. So I went back to school. And him leaving completely changed my life. And I called my dad that night, and I said, Dad, he left. I had nobody. And he said, well, didn't you go to culinary school? You become the chef of your own restaurant, and I'll lend you 2 cooks. Make sure you give me those 2 cooks back in 6 months. And so I got to borrow 2 of his best cooks, William and Joel. And they came in and they taught me everything. And we started that journey. A year later, I started competing, and I was lucky enough to win the Chef Open, which is an organization where chefs compete against each other, and it was Oak Grove. And I was the first chef to win the Pinnacle and the People's Choice. And because of that, the next year I was supposed to be introduced, and I think it upset some of the chefs, the European chefs that were there, and so they didn't introduce me. And I had this divine moment where I remembered that J-Lo in the movie Selena introduced herself to the public herself, and I went and I introduced myself, and Penny Davidi was there, and she actually was very excited, and she started using me to do cooking demos in Mexico. So I was able to travel to Mexico. Then Cooking Channel called and said, do you want to compete on the show? And then later Food Network called. And then because of my community service, I ended up getting an award from Barack Obama. And because of that, I got invited to go to Mexico, and the governor of Sinaloa asked me to help them improve tourism in Mazatlan. And then the president, Vicente Fox, along with Chef Latinos invited me to go cook for Vicente Fox, which completely changed my world, because I didn't feel like I belonged to them. I'm an American, and then I'm cooking for a Mexican president, and I had that little bit of insecurity, and he loved my dish. And I had a ratatouille moment with him, and it changed my life. And in 2000, not too long ago, almost 2 years ago, I closed Provecho down. I just, all the signs were there, to the point where I remember praying and saying, God, give me a sign. And the next day I went into my kitchen and all the outlets were smoked out.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah. And I closed the restaurant a week later. The restaurant that owns it now came and they made me an offer, and I sold an estate sale, and I sold them whatever was inside and my liquor license. I took 6 months off. On the 7th month, I was praying, and I was in my garage, and I was going through all my pictures, and I said, God, I thought we were going to do something by now. And I'm going through the pictures, and I said, oh my God, what a wonderful life I've had. I was 19 when I went to San Francisco, and here I am working for Carlo Medioni, and I have this craziness. Julia Child, I got to meet her, Nicolas Cage, Robin and Marsha Williams and the kids, and Annie Potts. I'm just a 19-year-old kid as a single mother with my child. So as I'm looking at all these pictures, I said, you know what, God, thank you. Your will. I surrender your will, whatever you want me to do. 4 days later, I'm dropping off flowers on my grandmother's grave. Rest in peace. She is still my everything. And I got the call. I heard you're looking for a restaurant, and that's Lady R Bistro now. So with the little, and I know there's a bigger purpose. I know it's not making enchiladas, Karen.
Oh, this is amazing. And I wanted to introduce Misty Kerrigan. She is our resident business psychologist, and we are so grateful for Misty. She has the biggest heart, and I know she loves you, Chef Rosie. So I'm going to let Misty ask some questions and let you guys have some time together. Thank you, Misty.
Absolutely.
So earlier, one of the ladies said sometimes leadership is letting go of something to take care of those that you love the most. And I know some of the more in depth of the story. I'm blessed to have you as a friend and get to know that. Yeah. But one of the things was your restaurant was so successful, they might say too successful, and you had that premonition where husband or restaurant, and you were like husband and life and things that I want to do other than just cook.
Yeah, it was that restaurant was, like I said, it was a blessing. Who looks at a person and says, you know what? Take over this restaurant. And it was truly, it taught me everything. But it got to the point after the pandemic, everything changed. The employees were no longer the same. They had their priorities. So we're looking at life a little bit different. It was harder to be in the kitchen. That restaurant, we were seeing 400 people a day. It was extremely successful. It was starting to take a toll on me. I had burnout. And it also started taking me away from the things that mattered most. It took me away from Oak Grove for a little bit there. It took me away from the Boys and Girls Club. And it took away from being a good wife and a mother, being present to my family. And I remember thinking that these are, no money in the world can is worth being separated by your husband or your son, who are my two angels. I mean, I've had visions, and I had a vision of my father when I was 5 years old that, this man was going to come and be my father. He was 22. And I was like, you're going to be my father. And he's like, oh yeah, who's your mom? And, I had the vision of my son, and being a single mother has been truly a gift for me. And then when I was, later in life, I had a vision of my husband. And I said, what's his name? And they said, Chris, show me his eyes. And they showed me eyes. And then at the end, God showed me Chris Farley in a toga, and I didn't even know who Chris Farley was. And I found out that he was an actor. And I just thought, you got a good sense of humor, God. But it just, sometimes you need to really look at the cost of that success.
Well,
money comes.
Let me pause that, because I think that is so in depth of what a lot of the messages were today, was the cost compared to the value, and having that, like, sometimes success isn't worth the price.
No.
And if you're taking that step back, and one of the things I love about you the most is your love for community.
Yes.
And your love for the people, and like the soul that comes with the food that you cook. And so the great thing about that is taking a step back is like, yes, this restaurant is successful, but I don't feel successful in this restaurant. And then taking that step back and doing your what do they call those? Like when you get to go away for 6 months and enjoying life and tasting new foods. And this new restaurant it's more of an experience. It reminds me of when you're in Europe and you take longer for the meal and you enjoy the courses and you get to talk with the chef and you sit down at the table. But it's having that time back where we see you back at Oak Grove and Boys and Girls Club and serving at-risk youth and just telling your story. So how does it feel what did it take for you to get back in the groove when you realized I was the keeper of my own success?
You know, you have to trust, you have to believe that everything is life is happening for you, not to you. And I really did believe that at that moment when I got that phone call that said, I heard you're looking for a restaurant. I just knew it was God sent. I know that, I know it's the success is going to be there and everything else. And I have to learn from my mistakes. This is another chance of having, a nice little restaurant. And that restaurant, when I built it, everything about it is I wanted women to come there and feel safe. I wanted to have, then when you go there visually, you see it. It's very feminine, and it was just that it's a gift to that community. It is a thank you for supporting us through that time, for supporting this little place. It's my platform to do bigger things. It's a very small restaurant, so I don't need as many employees as I did the last one. And I truly do believe that it gives me the opportunity to do this, to teach others, to go to schools, to talk to those kids who are 10-10 aces, to share my story and how I've, the resilience and overcoming all these things and giving them that belief that they can do it too. So this little restaurant's magical. It gives me a chance to, my husband has a job, my employees that were with me, during that process, they're there with me. But it's that gift that God gave me to cook and make something delicious. That gift is what I'm giving away. And that's how I'm able to help other people. I'm changing the world one taco at a time, Misty.
Well, we live in the same town, and a lot of the things is I don't know about where everyone else lives in the world, but sometimes you get these chain restaurants, and it's like come and get a meal and leave, and doesn't allow sometimes for those mom and pops to really thrive because people just trying to get a quick meal and leave. But we are in such a unique community where sometimes people only leave their house because it's a retirement communities, but up next to the restaurant. Yeah. And this is where they get their connection. You might be the only person that they get to talk to, or they come to the restaurant and feel seen or feel that they have a place to connect. And I know you were telling us a story one time about how a gentleman found you because provincial was like his weekly thing to get out of the house and connect. And when you close it, he was like sad, and then he broke down when he found you again. He's like, "Oh, you're back."
You're back. And he sat down and he got emotional. He had to sit down. He got emotional. He goes, I need to go home and tell my wife. And, I remember making a promise, and when I was praying and I said, I promise to take care of your seniors. I promise to take care of those who don't have family. I'll be their family. When you're doing that negotiating with God, give me another chance.
He's going to hold you to it.
Yeah. And he's going to hold you to it too, because I have seniors that come in, and one came in at like 9:15. We were already closed. And immediately I said, didn't I promise? And I felt that I was being tested. And, that place is just, I stood there one day in the middle of the restaurant, and I was looking out at my restaurant, and it was right at opening. And I stood there and I said, you didn't answer my dreams. You answered all their dreams, because they wanted that restaurant to come back. It was, it was a heartbreak. I took something away from them, and they went through their mourning period afterwards, and I remember people being very brokenhearted and angry. They went through that, the same stages, and I did everything I could. But when it's time to close that chapter so that you can open up a chapter and serve your purpose. My purpose is not only being a chef. There's a deeper soul purpose.
Yes.
And it's in touching other souls, and it's in sharing my story, and it's in, giving that hope to that single mother, Yes, you can. It's giving that, that hope to that little boy. Or that little girl. How do I know that if I just stay at the restaurant, how do I know that I'm not, by keeping that away, by not going to the schools and talking to them like I do, I don't know if I'm going to talk to the next kid who cures cancer. The next little Latino who wants to be the president of the United States, the next astronaut. I just know that by being the best me, it's going to affect others. And I need to go and share.
Oh my gosh.
And feed them.
Well, we are out of time, and I am bringing Karen back. We got 1 minute, and I want to end with, what would you tell them if we do have an audience of kids and adults, but what's one thing you would tell them about their dreams, maybe if it feels far away or that they can't achieve them?
Believe, because in believing you can create your own life. Because in believing, the right people will show up. And I truly believe all the right people have showed up. Look at where I'm at today. Look at it with Karen and with Misty. I'm doing this. We're sharing. Like, what a platform. Like, Grandma told me this would happen. Those are the good dreams.
That's amazing how God spoke to you. And so to see your husband in a toga, I mean, there were so many dreams that you received those divine downloads, and then to act on it. And, didn't I agree that I would do this? Very powerful message, Chef Rosie. And thank you for
trust the process.
Yes, trust the process. And thank you for your service. Thank you for making it such a unique experience to be in your provecho restaurant. And thank you for your big heart. We're so grateful to have you on with us today. And thank you, Misty.
Thank you, Misty. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Misty, that was really fun. What was a key takeaway that you had from that?
You know what? I've meet Rosie when she's volunteering. I go to her restaurant. I've seen her out in public. And the one thing is, and even when talking here, she's just authentically her. And sometimes, we go to different events and stuff, and it feels like you meet more than one person in one person. Not that people perform, but sometimes they feel uncomfortable in their authenticity. So they're like a little bit more into their voice or bigger words or whatever that be. But Rosie is just always Chef Rosie. No matter what she is in life, her heart shows up first.
Oh, I love that. Well, we've got some more heart-centered women that are coming on stage with us, and it is so fun to have them here. So we have Crystal Prevett and Karen Mann, and we have Sandra Horton, and I think she will be right back. But anyway, so we are very happy to have you all with us. And so, Crystal, we will start with you. If you could tell us a little bit about you. I know you are the president of the BNI, and you have the Crystal Mindset. She is an award-winning author. She's doing so many things as an entrepreneur. And so tell us a little bit more about you, Crystal. Oop, I'll unmute you.
Oh, there I am.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Karen. I love you and Misty and all of the people that are joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us. So my name is Crystal Prevett, and I have a company called Mindset Service. And I took a life of pain, trauma, and sexual abuse and turned it into being a 9-time best-selling author, featured on New York Times Square, and helping corporations and individuals just like you to release that pain, trauma, and fear so that we can become more courageous, confident, and live our very best life.
Oh my goodness. You're such an example of overcoming trauma and living your very best life. Look at you go.
Well, ironically, today is I tried to purposely never remember this date, and it's always funny because something every year brings it back up. But today was the 10-year anniversary of one of my abusers passing, which was my father. And it's always interesting to see the energy that happens behind some of those dates when that comes up. So I was so grateful to be a part of watching all of these incredible speakers and be moved and inspired by these women all day, because it just really filled a part of my heart that needed some community and connection. So thank you to you, Karen, and the Los Angeles Tribune and all the people behind the scenes that made this happen today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being such a connector. Thank you for giving us hope with your
What
story.
a testament to your journey to be. And I know, and one of the things we forgot to mention before we move to the next person is you are so big in nonprofits, especially with veterans. And just every time you take a step higher into a platform, you make sure that a spotlight of another nonprofit comes with you. And I've always admired that about you.
Oh, thank you, Misty. Yeah, I feel like we are so much stronger together. And I think if we learned anything from COVID and today is we were meant to be in unity and community. So thank you for creating an event like this where we could spend all day learning from one another. It's been fabulous. And to be here with Kieran and Sandra, and I love everyone on this panel. I feel like I'm at home.
I know, it's like home. Woohoo! Let's bring the energy, ladies.
Yes, that's right. Sandra, we apologize. That was our technical mistake that you were out. And so thank you for coming back and joining us. But Sandra, tell us more about you. Sandra is an emotional intelligence expert, an award-winning author, and tell us more about you and how you show up as a leader.
You know what's so beautiful? Just take this moment. Let's breathe that in. I went out and now I'm back in. I love that. Isn't that life though? That is the life in a pivot moment. It's like, oh, I'm here, then I'm going here. So, conscious leaders, what do? Stop, observe ourselves, take a breath and go, oh, great. Okay, I'm coming back in. And so, yes, this is why I'm here. And my big, hairy, audacious goal, as Kieran knows as well, is to inspire millions of people, at least 13 million leaders around the globe, to become conscious leaders. And so I'm doing that, particularly in healthcare and just, really changing. Let's bring up that vibe, bring up the energy. And I do that through my emotional intelligence, through being certified in change management and leading that change and getting really sticky in that gooiness of the uncomfortableness of change. And that's what I'm doing across a lot of organizations.
Well, and I want to toot your horn because it's not just change, it's psychologically evidence-based change that you spent years, you and you have a co-author, you guys spent years making sure you got out the right information. And I love that because there's so many books out there on leadership and change, and they're a dime a dozen, unfortunately, sometimes. But when you get that really true book that gives you results, I think that is said about the work that goes into it.
Thank you, Misty. That, that gives my heart the joyfulness of, I can't express it more, because that's how we touch people, right? It's our heart. And we imagine being here. There's so many women and men allies that would want to be here to share their stories. And to be courageous, we need to take action. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. Guess what? We overcome. And today I've listened to so many beautiful women who stood up, who have learned, they've lived, and they lead. And those are the 3 L's of what we need to do.
That's awesome, Sandra. And we're asking, you get a question in the chat, what the name of your book about is the activation.
Oh, thank you. It's right here. Let me just reach over here. Oh, this is real live. Okay, just a second. No fake things in the back here for me. So it's called Activate Success. Tips, tools, and insights to be a leader in your niche.
Yes, and thank you so much. We're going to come back to that and talk some more. So thank you for pivoting. Thank you for being a great example of making the change and being authentic about it. We appreciate that. And 13 million leaders. Wow, what a goal. Incredible. All right, Kieran Mann, we're so glad to have you with us. Kieran is the CEO of Brower Foods and does so many things to show up in the world and empowering so many women. Could you tell us more about how you show up as a leader, Kieran?
I think before I say anything, I just want to say, wow, my cheeks hurt since I've joined, and I'm laughing like I've never laughed. I can pick the energy that is there. Kudos to you for holding this since 9 a.m. Like I was home, I flew to Orlando, I've eaten lunches, I'm here, and you're still at the screen. So kudos to you.
Big hands for Karen.
And never ever I have seen the energy of so many women in one place, no matter how many women conference I've attended. This is mind-blowing. So thank you for hosting it, for bringing so many women all around the world together, and all of us to give us an opportunity to share the screen with you. Thank you.
Oh, Karen, that was so gracious of you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
very
I'm like watching and I'm like, why is my cheek hurting? Because I'm like laughing. And it's like pulled from so long that I have not released my muscles since then.
So true.
Oh my goodness. So Missy, I'm gonna let you ask the next question.
Okay. What inspires someone to take on a CEO of It's Raw Food?
Brar Foods.
It's OIC Foods. Brand name is Brars. Yes. What inspired me? I think my journey, as somebody asked me, and I had to write a blog a couple of days ago on LinkedIn because somebody asked me, why do you keep on changing? So I started as a fashion designer, was born up in a household. My dad was a ex-army. So grew up in that rough and tough, discipline and time management and that kind of culture. And then wanted to be a fashion designer. Did that, moved on into joined manufacturing. So from all my pulls and satins, I went into the grease and the steels and did that for 22 years, left that, started my own consulting firm because I wanted to bring answers to all the conversations I've been part of every Friday. You gang up, you sit and you vent out, this isn't working and this customer and this boss and this employee and this supplier. And I'm like, we talk about it and then Monday we get back to work. Like, who's going to fix all these? So I wanted to figure it out. Which one can I contribute in fixing? And all of a sudden, I thought auto was my first baby. And there I was one day, woke up and I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm going to figure it out what I'm going to do. Took me 3 weeks to figure it out what I'm going to do. And I started a consulting firm. So Brars was actually is one of my customers that I joined as a business advisor to the founder. And he was on for 1 year, Kieran joined me as a CEO. And I'm like, I want to kind of do my own thing where I have the control and it's working. And I think that conversation went for a year till Mr. Dayal said, how about you run your business and run mine? And that's how we started. And food and beverage was something I had never worked before prior to 2 years ago. When I left auto, I made a mission to myself, a promise to myself, I will not call anybody that is in my phone contact because that was my comfort zone. Everybody was from manufacturing world that was in my phone book. And I was like, I'm not going to call. I'm going to push myself to get out. And I did. And it was painful. It was hard. Being a president in automotive saying, okay, guys, we have a team. We have a meeting done. Let's go do it. And tomorrow you start your own company. You're going to say, let's do it. And then you're going to say, oh, I'm going to do it myself because you're the doer and the order giver. So it was hard. It was very challenging going into rooms where I didn't know anybody. Took me a year to figure it out. And here I am working in 9 industries now. And food and beverage is my 10th one. And this one I took over as a CEO where we have a chain of restaurants expanding at the moment for franchise and also a manufacturing place where we are creating dairy snack sweets, 3 portfolios. Yes. So we're Canada national, going into US, about 10% further expanding at the moment. So I love it. I love it. I love being part of as a
I love
CEO.
how you gave yourself space to learn. Like, you're like, I don't know what to do, but I know I'm not going to fail.
As a consultant.
That was awesome. That's very inspiring to know that you can kind of start over, but you're still you.
Yeah, talk about a pivot from fashion to the food, into a massive pivot.
I have created a new word. Yeah, I think I was asked so many times that I had to figure out a word for myself. So I've stopped saying I'm changing or even pivoting. I've started saying I'm evolving. I'm just evolving. I am who I am. I'm just, as I'm learning every day, I'm growing, adding to the bucket I have and whatever I know, and then use it the way it is. So it's evolving. We all are evolving.
What an amazing word.
Thank you.
So I have a question for the panel. So to give you guys a few seconds to think about it, because we have lots of women and men worldwide listening. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and corporations is, what would you tell someone getting started or someone getting disheartened? Someone just getting started or someone that's been doing it a while, now they're starting to get disheartened? And we'll start with Crystal.
Well, it's a great question. I think someone's touched on it earlier today about finding the fun. And I would imply maybe there's a saying that if it's not an F yes, it's an F no. So really following our gut and really listening to what our heart wants, because if it doesn't light us up, it's not going to light the rest of the world up. So really being honest and authentic with our true energy and really doing a little inventory check. Sometimes we have to do addition by subtraction. Sometimes we have to remove people from our life. Like Karen said, those people aren't part of this next step of my journey. So really being honest with ourselves and seeing, is that person serving me or am I using that as a crutch? So I would say really doing an inventory check, and honestly, you already know the answers within yourself. It's just quieting the mind and really tuning in. So I just implore everyone to really follow their heart.
Crystal, that was amazing. We've been at this since 9 a.m. Karen, you've been a real trooper, and this many hours later to still be getting things is amazing. Everyone today has just brought their A game, and thank you for that. I took notes. I need that advice.
We'll all be reaching out to Parisa later.
Anyone else want to add to that, please?
Sure. I'll say for me, the word is knowingness. Whether it's a start, whether we're stuck, whether we are confused, whether we're looking for the next path. For me, I've always used the word knowingness. If I know who I am, that will tell me what I need to do, what I need to change, what I need to tell myself to boost, because you're in so much clarity when you're in knowingness, and that clarity brings us confidence and courage.
Oh,
and do you want me to jump into this, or do we have to shift? I just want to jump on this. Do we have time to jump into it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I would say, adding to what Crystal and Karen have said, is, and we haven't talked so much about this, but I love the work by Gina Hayden, who said, the first step on our journey is the journey of awakening to mastering our ego. Because the ego, for wherever you are in your journey, that is that back brain, that way of responding or reacting most times in leadership that can get us into a lot of trouble, or it can allow us to remove it, let it go, and then be in that present moment. And so many of the earlier speakers were talking about this. It's being in the now. It's imagining ourselves in the future from that present moment. And when people are going through change, which I see daily, guess what happens? They get in their own way. So wherever you are in your beautiful journey, take a breath, stop, and then ask yourself, is my ego showing up ahead of myself into the door, into my meeting? Because sometimes that can happen. I have so many stories that I could share about that happening. And it's like, how do you deal with that change resistance? You have to remove the ego. So we can come to consciousness. We can come to an understanding from a heart to heart, not a head to head.
Oh, that is so good, Sandra. And you are such a great example of that. Even with the way that you approach, challenges in relationships and your humble heart that wants to understand and that has the courage to ask the questions, to gain the information and to gain that understanding, because you set your ego aside and you went to love first. So I want to commend you for that. Thank you so much for your example.
Thank you. It truly is a powerful place. If I can just quickly pivot just for a moment on that, because for many people, and maybe this resonates for you, I just had a recent experience, like literally this last week. And I don't know for any of you, have you ever had this where you go into a meeting and someone else is showing up with their big ego, that they're showing up to belittle you or not even talk to you or like just look past you, and they go to the other person? I just had that. It doesn't matter if you're in a leadership role. What does that make you feel? What do you see yourself do? Do you shrink? What do you do? And I just had that moment. It was, if I had not had the self-awareness to go within and just stop, and go, hey, wait a second. Am I being triggered like my little girl may have been when I repressed my stories for 34 years? What I would have felt, I would have been heartbroken. I would have felt that loss, that sense of, I don't belong here. I don't belong. And I said, stop, hell no. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, I do belong here. I am leading this project. And guess what? I'm here to build collaboration with you. And so my voice matters. But the younger Sandy would have said, oh, I'm going to go out that door and I'm going to cry. But I had that moment. I don't know if that resonates, but that's the truth. In leadership, we have to be able to be so strong, but also vulnerable and know our own stories and make choices, choose, not react.
Wow. That was wonderful, Sandra, and a beautiful example that you just reminded me about something. I used to feel that in my heart, I would recheck all my clarities, my confidence, my knowingness. And I'm kind of doing my own analysis in my plus and minus in my brain, listening to people and saying, like, what are they saying? And all of a sudden, then I realized that I'm just in maybe a different vibration space. When you are polars apart at times from certain people, whatever they're saying is not who you are. So instead of judging ourselves, it's sometimes you just acknowledge it, confirm it, tell them, what you are saying is what you are saying. That doesn't define me. And then kind of just pause it at that point. Nobody defines us than us.
Yeah. We have to look at ourselves from the inside out.
Crystal, I want to hear your thoughts on setting aside our ego and dealing with that when those moments happen, like when Sandra's in this meeting.
There's a really incredible Albert Einstein quote that I love. It says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will go its whole life thinking that it's stupid. And I think this is so powerful because we shouldn't be judging ourselves towards others or even judging ourselves towards a past version of ourselves. It's really important to judge ourselves on our growth and on our walking in our integrity. So yeah, I think it's easy to fall into those talk tracks. I've heard a couple women today say it's hard to make women friends. And every time I heard that, I said, cancel in my mind, because look at today, look at all of these incredible women that have stepped up in community and collaboration. So if you're struggling and feeling like you want to connect with another woman, reach out to Kieran, reach out to Sandra or myself, reach out to Karen. I plan already. We're not even through the day, and I'm like, I'm going to go back and rewatch all of this because I want to take more notes. I learned so much. I mean, I could see myself putting this on the background while I do chores around the house. There's just so much wisdom dropped by every single woman here today that I felt just wrapped in community, and I feel like that was such a powerful gift. And I think that we should just release judgment and be careful of, opposing beliefs. I think that's where dis-ease comes within the body. When we hear things like, women have a hard time connecting, just maybe challenge those thoughts and maybe say, no, women are born to connect. We have this gift of nurturing and being there for one another. And I grew up with all brothers. I have 2 boys, and it hasn't been until my divorce several years ago that I really found the power of female connection. And I have to tell you, it's transformed my life. So connect with one another. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you. Missy, I'm going to let you ask the last question and take us out.
So one of the things that I would love to know is, not so much the self-care, I take a bath, but how do you pour back into yourselves?
Oh, can I jump in? Because I think that's the most important thing. Bring in the energy, because this is important. It's like on the 5 o'clock note, just for Karen, just so you know. So I know Jeff has to have us go, or you have to go somewhere soon. So for me, self-care is so critical. What I do is I meditate every single day. I set my intention. As soon as I get out of bed, I'm like, what do I want to do today? How easily is this going to come to me? And I meditate. I go for 10,000 steps. I do Pilates. And we have to step into ourselves to care about ourselves. And that's the number one thing. Make the choice to care. about yourself?
I love that you preface it as a choice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sandra made a really amazing point. I think I use that word too, intention. Whether you're starting your day, whether you're doing a new task, I do it for my meetings too now. On the top of the meeting agenda, I write down what is the intention of this meeting. So intention really, really has helped me getting focused, I would say. When it comes to the energy, I make a joke in my house and to my inner circle, and today I'm going to say it on the air. I travel a lot with my work, and anytime I'm out, I always say it's time to go back because I feel like I need to recharge. So my home, the trees in my house, time with my kids, time in my own room. Like humans, I don't need you for 3 hours because I need to charge myself. I literally use these words. I had too much of human time. I need to go into my charging station, which is my room or the trees in my house. So it is different for everybody. For somebody, it could be going to walks. Sometimes it's sitting by the water, reading a book by the fire. There's different energy points that we all use. Room is always my default for sure. And I think we all need to identify which one it is, what works for you. But another thing I've learned in the last few years is releasing the energy. As you're recharging and getting the good energy, you also need to release what is not working for you. So one of the things I do in my morning meditation is pray to universe, release what is not required by me, for me. What doesn't serve me, let it go, so that I can open myself to accept and allow what I need.
I love that. Accept and allow. Thank you. And our last point, Crystal, take us out. What do you do?
What don't I do? It's kind of honoring that spirit within us. I definitely, like the other ladies, I have a morning routine where I do kind of think about what intention I want to put out into the world, and also praying and asking to be used as a vessel for light and love, and to be a catalyst for someone's change. You just never know who you're going to run into that day. You never know who's going to be in a room next to you, or if you're struggling. Oftentimes, you probably know this about me, Misty. When I'm struggling, I give back. I find that the serotonin and the dopamine of giving, it helps both people, the giver and the receiver. So there's always someone that's got it worse in life than us. There's always something that could be going on a lot harder. And I always believe that when I'm struggling, I try to find someone else that's struggling too and help them. The mirror neuron aspect of that, where you get to help someone else and it also helps you. So selfishly, I guess I give back. That would be, it benefits both.
Thank you so much, ladies. We are out of time and we are going to move to our next segment. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Thank you for having
everyone.
us.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you for having us.
Bye.